Both. I'm starting with coffee because I forgot to put my Red Bull in a fridge or a Rain in a fridge.
Are Rain any good?
Yeah, a couple of them are.
Never been an energy drink guy. Not really even a coffee guy, but everyone around me likes them. I've just been trying, but I feel like I don't want to develop a reliance on anything like that. But that's easier said than done with this guy.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm still surrounded by college folk. I go to bed at 4. I wake up at 4.
There we go. All right. Okay. Well, we need a slightly drier trend. Yeah.
I have the bro cuts as well, or the cut,
The cut.
the singular cut.
Yeah, the rest of them were.
So.
Eh. That's not even that great.
But I mean, any chance to hear from Joey B, am I right?
Well, pretty much. Jesus, that's
Every other
loud.
person we got.
Okay.
I'm not sure many people are thinking about lunch, but every time you talk about Muya, I really consider it.
Well, then I'm not doing my job until you actually go.
I need money for that.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna have to cut this weather. It's about a minute and a half.
That's long.
It's very long. But dark, I'm not doing right now. It's definitely just weather. I've made cuts to it. It's usually like 2.5 minutes long.
Okay. Did I? Bless you.
Thank you.
don't think I'm going to be able to get into YouTube at all this morning.
What do you mean?
It's just not opening for me.
I need to use my phone at any point you can.
Nah, I appreciate it, but I'll be all right. I can get everywhere else. It looks like it was running an update and then stopped.
Alright, I'm about to start.
Cool.
This is Mornings with Brian Haldane. Who are you? Brian! Brian! I'm really quite sweet. Mornings are for coffee and contemplation. News and newsmakers. Coffee and contemplation. Traffic and weather. I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I still don't know why. Good morning! Great day in the morning, people. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening. Start your day with Baton Rouge's hub for information and opinion. Yeah, well, I just like your opinion, man. Here is Brian Haldane.
607, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and Thursday's show is ready to roll. Making adjustments on the fly, but nonetheless, we're coming your way for the next 3 hours. Got a lot of ground to cover today. Going to talk about Hurricane Ida recovery at 7:15. I'm super looking forward to this. We told you not long ago about a Baton Rouge Fire Department task force that's been put together. It's like their third time deploying. They're down in Grand Isle. Going to talk with Michael Kimble at 7:15. He's the commander of that task force, and he's going to bring us up to speed on what's going on with the recovery efforts in Hurricane Ida from their perspective, how far they've come, how much more they've got to go, what brought this task force about in the first place, what makes them such an elite unit. Anyway, that's 7:15. I got Crimestoppers at 7:35. Oh, I skipped right past Patrick Grimion. Have you heard of Turo yet? I think I'm pronouncing it right. Turo. People rent out their cars, like an Airbnb for cars. Anyway, it's hitting Baton Rouge pretty strong. I don't get it. I don't grasp the concept. We're going to talk about that. Also, Patrick Grimion, host of the Patty G Show, had his 100th episode this week. We're going to have to look back on 100 episodes as well, kind of take stock of where he's at. It's 100 episodes is 100 guests. 100 guests is a lot of different business people to talk to, a lot of different perspectives to cover in the business world. So looking forward to that at 6:35. Skipping all the way ahead to the 8 o'clock hour. 8:15, Chris Meyer from New Schools for Baton Rouge is going to be on with us. We get caught up with them about once a month or so to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of charter schools, how they are advancing, what we should be on the lookout for in the near future. Well, where we're at right now with schools, I'm kind of going to want to address two different things coming down from the governor's office. One of them is the extension of the mask mandate combined with Pfizer saying that shots for COVID vaccines for kids under the age of 12 probably won't be ready till November, which as of tomorrow is only a month away. But the other thing I want to touch on with him is the state is no longer requiring a mandatory quarantine for close contact students. This is going to be interesting because, number one, we want kids in school as much as possible through COVID, right? Anybody who's got kids in school and had to go through this knows what a pain in the tuchus it is. And the way the timing plays out and you start the countdown of your quarantine as a contact doesn't begin until your last contact with a positive case. You run the risk, the very real risk of, if your kid doesn't have COVID, from a school perspective, it's actually worse because they can't start their countdown until after they're done being around someone who has COVID. Anyway, the state is no longer requiring mandatory quarantine for close contact students. That's going to be one of the things we talk about with Chris coming up at 8:15. We were also supposed to have this morning, and I say supposed to have because this has been rescheduled, Sherry Markson. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've only seen it written, Sharri. Sherry Markson is the author of the book, What Happened in Wuhan. Or I'm sorry, What Really Happened in Wuhan. Talking about the beginning of the coronavirus, the origins of COVID-19, or SARS-CoV-2. What went down in Wuhan? She's the author of the book. So anyway, she lost her voice, so we've rescheduled for next week. Book came out yesterday, was going to be very timely. Today, it will nonetheless be good information next week as well. So that's said to be postponed. Anyway, that's where we're at this morning. That's your full rundown. I've got about a minute and a half or so before break. I do want to start with this. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The government's not going to shut down. Congress is moving to avert one crisis while putting off another, with the Senate poised to approve legislation that would fund the federal government into early December. The House is expected to approve the measure following the Senate vote today, preventing a partial government shutdown when the new fiscal year begins tomorrow. Democrats were forced to remove a suspension of the federal government's borrowing limit from the bill at the insistence of Republicans. If the debt limit isn't raised by October 18th, the country would likely face a financial crisis and economic recession, says Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Republicans say Democrats have the votes to raise the debt ceiling on their own. Republican leader Mitch McConnell is insisting that that's exactly what they do. So, for the last 3 days now, you've seen headlines about how the government's going to shut down if they don't reach a deal. Well, they always reach a deal. They always do. And if you do see a shutdown, or which we've seen in the past for short periods of time, it's never been anything that really hits home. So, crisis averted. Headlines now negated. We'll dive into that more as the show wears on. Right now, though, we are at 612 at Talk 107.3 FM. I'm going to take a break in a second. We're going to talk a little sports in our next segment. Got some audio. Ed Ogeron was on the SEC Media Coaches Teleconference yesterday. We will hear from that. Also, it's Thursday Night Football tonight. Burrow to Chase in action tonight. We'll hear from Joey B next. Before we hit that break, though, got to ask you, we're on the last day of September. Have you gotten by Mooyah to try a Texas pecan shake? Have you gotten by Mooyah to try the Big Dill? Last day with it on the menu before being retired to the Hall of Dang. The Big Dill going on right now at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. I shouldn't say right now. They're not open at 6 o'clock in the morning. But by lunchtime, swing by and get you a Big Dill. What is a Big Dill, you ask? Well, do you like pickles in your burger? Do you like fried pickles? What about just putting fried pickles on your burger? That's the long and the short of that. Plus all the other fresh ingredients that make up a great Mooyah burger. The freshly cut vegetables, the freshly baked potato bun, the certified Angus beef, the Tillamook cheddar cheese. It's all there on the Big Dill. Available through today for, and I can't swear enough by the Texas pecan shake. It's so good. Anyway, 2 locations. Segan, just north of Industrialplex, or Bluebonnet at Highland Road. You're going to find those great burgers, fries, and shakes at both locations. The great service at both locations of Mooyah. Go to Musso's folder from yesterday.
So there's a lot of respect for Auburn. Auburn running backs. Stingley seeing doctor. On Carson's offense. On TJ's scramble abilities. Credits Tiger Stadium for 2019 Auburn and Florida wins. Auburn linebackers. Nothing on Bradford or Emory. Kirkland and Sony both eligible.
All right, I want Stingley seeing a doctor. And I want Tiger Stadium.
Stingley and Tiger Stadium.
Yep.
Yo, to keep going, there's a couple more.
Nah, it's fine. That's all we're going to have time for.
Stingley. Credits Tiger Stadium for their wins against
Yeah.
You'll lose it with Chris, you want, obviously.
Yeah. Ding. Hey! Morning, sweetheart.
Come on, man. They're uploading everything except weather.
You can trim that weather down a lot. I mean, there's
What should I get rid of? Because they're talking about
everything that's not in the immediate forecast. Yeah, you can get rid of her talking about how it's short sleeve weather. That's added commentary that's not needed. The morning haze is going to go away as the morning wears on, so that's not going to be applicable at 8 o'clock. So if you want to get rid of that too.
We're about to hit 6:17, so you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Weeknights at 6 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
LSU first. LSU first. 617 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Auburn week rolls on. We're getting ready for the Auburn Tigers on Saturday night in Death Valley. 8 p.m. is your kickoff. They'll get started, I want to say, 5 hours before that on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. One of the things that I'm keeping an eye on this week, and not just this week, but for the foreseeable, for all the future, is Derek Stingley done at LSU? Let's pause and just and contemplate that question for just a second. We only have 2.5 minutes, so you can't pause for too long. He's going to be a top 5 draft pick. He's nursing an injury right now. He's going to see a doctor. In fact, here's Ed Ogeron talking about Derek Stingley's status as of now.
I think he's in the process of seeing a doctor this week. Maybe seen seen a doctor today. He flew out of town to see a doctor. So we haven't had any results. We haven't heard anything, but I think he's in the process of seeing a doctor today.
So if you're Derek Stingley and you go see a doctor right now, 5th game of the season, why would you come back at all? What do you have to prove as Derek Stingley? Your draft status is, your draft stock is, you're going to be a top 5. I mean, unless you got some kind of report from somebody saying, you know what, if you don't go back, you're going to drop, which isn't going to happen. I think we need to, as Tiger fans, maybe start closing the book on Stingley overall. As far as the game itself, it's going to be raucous. I've been looking forward to this for some time now because when it comes to the vibe in Tiger Stadium, we missed out on full-on SEC football, full-on capacity crowd, Saturday night in Death Valley. Ed Ogeron in the SEC Coaches Teleconference yesterday made reference to how in 2019, that was a big deal.
I attribute our victories to Auburn and to Florida in 2019 because of our fans, because of Death Valley. I think that we beat those teams because we were playing at home, and that helped us win the championship. So that says a lot. The energy that they bring us, it makes it hard on the opposing team, but it's not about the opposing team. It just lights us up, man. We just can't wait to get in the Tiger Stadium. And think about this, Steve. This is the first time our freshmen, the first time our new coaches have really seen Tiger Stadium at night. So it's going to be a great energy boost for our team.
I ain't thinking about the new coaches. It's kind of a big deal. I'm just looking forward to the vibe on campus all day long, weather permitting, of course. It does look like we're supposed to catch some rain throughout the afternoon on Saturday, so that might tamp things down a little bit, but all in all, it should be a top-notch SEC atmosphere on campus all day. Here comes the Fox Business Report. We'll do the Joe Burrow thing next. Let's see if that worked. Oh.
Can't get from bots. Visit Cintas.com.
I'm going to go let Patty G in real quick.
Welcome back. We've missed you. We know it's been tough. Because rebuilding your business isn't for the faint of heart. Your business needs a jumpstart. And we're here to help. Introducing Surge, symmetrical speed fiber internet for retail business. Revved up data speeds at 30% off, plus 3 months free. We're glad you're back. And we're here to make your business surge. Detail business. Offer valid on 3-year contract for 2 or more business services.
Anna here, you know I've told you about Core by USC Gym for years now. An incredible place to work out. Open 7 days a week. Kickboxing, boxing, strength and conditioning classes 7 days a week as well. It is very kid friendly. Yes, they even have kids classes. Located on the corner of Sherwood and Coursey. All ages, all demographics, all athletic abilities. Take a class for free or just take a tour. They've got the music blaring. The trainers are incredible. Train different. Core by USC, Sherwood and Coursey.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. If you want to learn Spanish for future travel plans, French to connect with extended family, or German to land a new job. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you'll actually use. All you need is 15 minutes a day, and you'll be on your way to confidently speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel is designed by real language experts using a modern conversation.
I don't know what to say on Facebook. I don't know the word. You know what?
Engaging, and best of all, memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases.
I want to see if there's any difference.
Gradually get more complex. Soon you're
Shh,
practicing conversations about real life topics. And with 14
Nope, it's not.
and lesson topics like
I'm trying to share from YouTube, but my YouTube app is having, I don't know why. It's
language
like
life. Learn a new language
showing me it's updating, but it's not really updating.
So you're not able to see it live.
Yeah, I know. So, whatever. Whatever.
Well, right now traffic is a little bit slower than usual if you're traveling on the Mississippi River Bridge on the eastbound side. I just checked every possible camera and I've not seen the issue. So whatever it was may have already moved on or it may still be out of view. No information from total traffic communicating. But so we're still working on finding out the cause of this. By the next traffic hit, it may be a bigger path.
That was the same traffic update.
Yeah, it happens a lot. We update it maybe twice an hour. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Before we move on, actually, our next topic is kind of sports related as well. It's very much sports related as well. But before we move on to that topic, I was telling you about LSU and Auburn in Tiger Stadium Saturday night. Before we can get there, we got Thursday night football, NFL action tonight. I got to tell you, the Thursday night slate in the NFL has been a lot more. It's not necessarily better, but more exciting, more things to look forward to. And tonight is no different, as you got Burrow to Chase. Well, I guess I from a local perspective at least, I'm looking forward to Burrow to Chase on the one side. And then on the other side, Trevor Lawrence. Cincinnati taking on Jacksonville, or I should say Jacksonville is at Cincinnati tonight for Thursday night football. Joe Burrow, liking what he's seeing with this early offense, especially he and Chase teaming up.
Should be number one because when you're efficient, you're going to move the ball down the field, get first downs, and score a lot of points. Our defense, got us the ball in great field position the whole game. And all we really had to do was take advantage of it. And we're going to be in every single game we play because we have that defense across from the opposing offense. And so we just got to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves.
Long as he's still vertical. I mean, so much went into in the offseason or heading into draft time as to why they did not pick an offensive lineman to protect him, and instead gave him another target. Well, 3 games in, Burrow to Chase is connected for 3 touchdowns, so far so good. It's paying off. Oh, by the way, that game will be on our sister station 104.5 ESPN tonight after Game Time with Jimmy Ott. So we'll just pick up coverage at 8 p.m. Odd runs until 8 p.m. So you can hear it over there. Hey, have you been trying to take advantage of the sports betting that made its way through the legislative session? It's good to go in 55 parishes in Louisiana. It, however, officially remains on hold after an expected mid-September startup was delayed by Hurricane Ida. Louisiana's Gaming Control Board Chairman Ronnie Johns says,
"We literally have lost 10 to 15 days of actual work on getting the license applications reviewed."
At last count, 13 applications had been received of the 20 expected from casinos and racetracks around the state. John says he won't venture a guess on the exact date when sports betting will be up and running in Louisiana. He does say troopers who had been assigned to Ida Recovery from the State Police Gaming Division are back at full capacity to help get sports betting rolling sooner rather than later.
They're working overtime to get these applications approved, get them over to me as chairman for me to give final approval to.
We need to get that rolling, man. I mean, Bengals are favored by 7.5 tonight. The Cincinnati Bengals favored by more than a touchdown. That's a big line. Might want to hop in on Jacksonville. Gaming Control Board Chair Ronnie John says it's important for sports betting in the Bayou State to be fully compliant with state law.
The first impression is a lasting impression of anything that we do in business or life, and this is going to be the same thing with sports betting. We want to get it right.
100%. 100%, but we also want to get it moving. I mean, look, I know we're talking about a long-term play here, but a lot of the anticipation for this went into being ready for football season this year. I mean, it passed during the legislative session, which has been over for months now. It's week 5 in college football, week 4 in the NFL. Every week that goes by, there's just more and more money left on the table because people aren't taking advantage of it. That being said, I mean, there's plenty of outlets without it, but I'm saying from an official capacity, I went ahead and downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook. I would assume they're one of the ones that's going to be approved, and I get the same message every single time. I am not within a region where it's allowed. Now that's going to change, but for those that wanted to do it the way that, through the approved channels, you're just sitting on the sidelines, no pun intended, waiting, biding your time. Our news at the bottom of the hour will have more on that topic, to be sure. We are about to break for that news. Well, we'll check CBS News first. Well, they'll tell you the government shutdown has been avoided. Although, technically, they still have to vote on it. But as of right now, it looks like all systems are moving forward. And we are avoiding a government shutdown once again. Everything else that's involved in that, though, it's looking like Mississippi River Bridge? No. Well, from Louisiana's perspective. Infrastructure deal, most of our delegation voting no. $3.5 trillion might be averted. That bill might not make it. CBS will have the latest for you on all that, and then we'll have our local news where they'll talk more about the gaming and a few other items as well. After that, we're checking in with Patrick Grimion, host of the Patty G Show. He is at 100 episodes right now. That's no small accomplishment. We're going to talk about that. Also going to talk about Turo, which is basically somewhere in between Uber and Airbnb and Enterprise Rent-A-Car. If you mash those three things together, you get Turo. We're going to talk about that next. Before we hit news, though, got to remind you, Talk 107.3 is still giving you a chance to enjoy a true Louisiana staycation on us at either the Renaissance or Watermark Hotels. Take our staycation survey at talk1073.com, and you will be instantly registered. Here comes CBS News. Oh my. Well, Cat Terrell just tweeted exactly what I said a minute ago. Stingley ain't coming back ever.
That doesn't surprise me. And if I was him, I wouldn't be. Just because, like you said, his stock is so high already.
You got nothing to gain by it.
Exactly. If you're already a top 5 pick, you have literally nothing to prove. Plus, it's not like you'd want to be pick number 1. You're going to the worst franchise, probably like the Texans or the Jags.
And nobody's picking a cornerback number 1 overall.
I agree with you, but you don't even want the chance. I know cornerbacks taking them in the draft are huge risks. Like Jeff Okudah is like a prime example recently. I think he was taken 3rd in 2019.
Wait, who?
Jeff Okudah. He was taken by the Lions. Opposite of McKenna.
Did I ever show you what? Check out that one right there. Look at the number of views on that bad boy.
Heyo.
Alright, your mic's on YouTube now.
Thank you.
Cool.
There you go, man.
I know. I picked up 250 to 300 more followers just because of that one video, and it's boosted everything else I've done.
Yeah.
A TikTok of I took a helicopter ride to tour Hurricane Ida damage. And yeah, it's raw audio. I didn't use any music or anything. It's just raw audio of the helicopter itself as I'm flying over Grand Isle. 106,000 views.
Honestly, quite an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, then your second helicopter ride did okay.
I was just flying in.
Third one did all right.
Remember, I was around 150 views per video before that.
Yeah, no, you got.
I'm going to get.
That's a good little boost.
Thank you.
It's a good little boost, man. I'm digging it.
Still not figuring out who I am on TikTok yet.
Yeah. Who are you?
Are you going to be doing dances in a few weeks?
Hmm?
I was asking if he's going to do TikTok dances in a few weeks.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Even though I'm part of that generation that's all about TikTok, like, I don't know, I just see it as like Vine 2.0, and it started out as Musically, and it was just people lip syncing and really cringy dances, so I can never get behind it, but enough people have convinced me to try it, and it's scary how good the algorithm works to like track what you like,
Oh, yeah.
and your For You page is straight up just like quality.
It's scary.
It's really scary. And like the nail in the coffin for not getting it was whenever it came out, like how much info they really have on you. But like, it's not like our phones don't already do that. Like if we were on a radio show, we could still be heard by people.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre how technology is advancing.
It is.
Just algorithms just track who you are as a person and what you like.
It's like it knows you more than you know you,
Exactly.
which is scary.
There's like those dystopian movies or books out there, or like I don't know, like Captain America: Winter Soldier uses Zola's algorithm. I don't know if you're a Marvel fan, but Zola's algorithm like tracks everything about you and then predicts like where you could evolve into in the future.
Yeah.
So, it's not that extreme, obviously. There's no supervillains, no Nazi secret society. Maybe there is. It's just getting crazy now.
Mm-hmm. That it is. Hey, you wait. Okay, just want to make sure I didn't remember if you got your alarm on or not. Okay. Alright, love you. Bye.
swapping out the coffee.
Yeah, I can't, like, I've been having this weird thing where my stomach goes sour from drinking too much coffee in the morning because I'll slam 2 of those big mugs. So, trying to mix it up a little bit.
There you go. So what is that?
This is a Rain Inferno Red Dragon thermogenic fuel.
Sounds like it scares you awake.
It does.
No, you will be awake now.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I just Rain Inferno Red Dragon. Like, they sound like the outfit that kidnapped Tug Speedman. That's.
You just do. Every time there's a reference, you just pretend. So what's Rain's claim to fame? 0 sugar, 0 gram fat,
What is their claim?
0 everything.
Pretty much.
Looks like.
A lot of natural caffeine, helps burn calories, accelerates metabolism. Yeah.
Oh, accelerates metabolism. That's where it gets you.
.638 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Every Thursday morning, we welcome in Patrick Grimion. He's the host of the Patty G Show. They're up to 100 episodes. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we got a lot of ground to cover before then. We welcome him in right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing all right. So 100 episodes. Wow, that's
100 episodes.
pretty solid for a podcast. The majority of podcasts end after like 4.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, anybody who's ever asked me, I'm thinking about starting a podcast, the first thing I tell them is come up with 100 ideas first.
Mm-hmm.
Have 100 ideas, have 100 topics, have 100 podcasts ready to roll. Not ready to roll, but where you want to go.
At least where you want to record them, right?
Right. And if you do that, you can at least get started.
Yeah, I mean, I think I started with like maybe 20 or 30 potential guests.
Okay, so 20 to 30 is that's a solid start. But you're doing something that's open ended. It's always going to be rolling. It's always going to be. There will always be somebody tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Most folks that come up with a podcast, they're like whatever it is they're interested in.
Yeah, or like,
and it's very niche, and it's very like, it's interesting to them. Therefore, there will be other people who are interested in it. But it's also very finite in how much you can actually talk about.
Yeah, you'll eventually, depending on what it is, run out. Like if you do a true crime, podcast or something, you might run out of cases.
So that takes a lot of legwork,
and it takes a lot of work to do. Like it's almost like a full-time job to do something that's prepped, and you're written out. You've got a script that you're following. If it's scripted, it's a whole lot more work.
Yes,
whereas
it's a full-time job,
right? Whereas something like what we're doing with the Patty G Show, it's just off the cuff. The owner basically brings the content.
So we're going to get around to your 100th episode in the next segment. I want to talk some business first. I mean, that's what we bring you on for, first and foremost. Turo is growing in popularity, and I'm not 100% sure I get the popularity behind it.
So I actually downloaded the Turo app probably about a year or 2 ago.
Okay.
Whenever it just came out, I saw it on like a news article, and it was very interesting to me. I was like, Uber and Lyft were becoming wildly successful. Everybody was open to the fact of sharing your cars and driving people around. And then Airbnb became very popular. So you had this share economy that was almost created. Mm-hmm. Turo was essentially the same thing. I was looking at it like, from a business perspective, can I put my car on here and rent it out to make money? Well, this morning I did a search on Enterprise, and they have 0 cars available in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
I did a search on Turo. They've got 12.
Okay.
So there are available cars because it's owned by people. It's not owned by big corporations that have hundreds of fleets of vehicles. A single person, you can rent out the car you've got. And it's
I can, but I need the car I've got. I use the car I've got.
For maybe those couples that are working from home, they have 2 cars and only one of them needs to go back and forth to work. They can rent out their car if you're working from home and not driving.
Okay.
And so you can either deliver it to the person who rents it,
mm-hmm.
or they can take an Uber and come pick it up.
So therein lies the problem, though. They're taking an Uber to come get their rental.
Right.
So why wouldn't they take an Uber wherever they need to go?
If you're on a business trip and you've got lots of miles,
mm-hmm.
and your company is paying for a per diem of car rental,
right?
as opposed to Uber, it can become cost effective there.
Hang on, let's pause because I want to make sure I'm approaching this from the right angle. The the person doing the renting, I get.
Yeah.
If there's no availability, you want to find availability. Where I'm coming at this from is the person who's putting their car out there. An Airbnb, I understand, especially if you own rental property. It's just another way to get your property rented. A car, to me, the level of problems you can run into with a car that I would not want my vehicle out there on the road driven by someone else. If somebody rents my house, yeah, they could probably do some damage to my house. They can't steal my house.
Yeah.
They can't total my house. It's likely they don't total my house. And also, the back end of that is, like, if the lights work and the plumbing works, the house is just fine. So many things can go wrong with a car, and the liability on the back end feels like this is just... I don't feel like this is going to be a long-term play.
And I can understand that from having the insurance liability perspective. Toro does offer insurance packages that you can pay for to make sure if you damage the car, it's covered, right?
Right.
Because otherwise, hey, you know, Brian, you borrow my car. Look,
As the renter.
You look, Brian, you borrow my car, man. Like, if you break it, like, just pay for the repairs.
Yeah.
You know, so Toro's like, hey, pay for insurance if anything happens while you're the rentor.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're covered.
Right.
If you happen to hit a curb or somebody rear ends you while you're renting the car, you're not going to be liable for it. They're going to have an insurance policy on it.
Right. If I own an Airbnb, it's not likely that an 18-wheeler slams into that Airbnb, killing everyone inside.
Right.
That happens a lot more on the road than it does at home.
Yeah, that it does.
So I just maybe this is me just being old curmudgeon guy, you know, but I'm just not getting it.
And I think it's going to take time to become wildly popular. I mean, with only 12 to 15 cars in the Baton Rouge area, it's still not wildly popular when you can get an Uber in 15 minutes.
Right.
You can get an Airbnb pretty readily available in the local area. So those have grown into popularity. Same thing with Toro. It's going to take a while for people to trust it, for people to realize it can be reliable as a rentor. Because Airbnb, everybody was, I'm not going to stay in someone's home initially. Why would I go and stay? It's weird.
No,
it's
see,
odd.
but, okay, bed and breakfasts have been around forever.
Yeah.
This was just a more direct-to-consumer way of doing it. And Airbnb just broadened out an already existing market. It just broadened it out. Personally owned rental cars, it's just it's different. Like Uber and Lyft, I got that from the start. Completely understood that from the start, and you could easily see this is going to take off, and here's why. And then of course there were the people who were like, well, what about somebody who just kidnaps you? Well, you can get that with a cab driver too.
Yeah.
So
They just have a medallion that says they
And-
can drive.
And once again, from the perspective of the person who would go in and rent the Toro, not the person who's renting out their car, the person who would rent it, I understand that too. You're in a spot where you need a vehicle. I don't care where it comes from. I need a vehicle. I'm not picky. I don't care if it's your Jeep or Jake's Jeep or anybody else's Jeep. Why are they all Jeeps? Anyway, I get it from their end. It's just the supply side is where I have a problem.
So if you're let's say you're a car collector and you've got maybe 3 or 4 cars in your garage.
Sure.
Now it makes sense. Yeah, for somebody, you can rent it for. They had a Tesla on there for $225 a day. They had a Corvette for $380 a day. I mean, if you've got a nice,
if I've got
car,
if I've
you
got
can make your money
a
off of it.
collectible car, forget it. The value that I hold for that car, the fact that I collected it, no. I'm not putting that in the hands of some jackwagon. We got a break. Let's take a quick break. We're going to check your money now. We're going to check traffic. When we come back from that break, maybe one or two more notes on Toro, but then we'll get into the 100 episodes in the can. What have we learned? Where are we now? What kind of changes have you seen in Baton Rouge in very recent years? In fact, it's kind of emblematic of what we're talking about right now, that we're talking about, Toro. It's a different vibe. It's a different business mindset. 100 episodes. What have we learned? That's coming up next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Okay, I'll have to do it after your money now.
So that's your black Jeep out front? Yeah. Nice. That's what it's a JK, so you're like a 18, 19, something like that? Or are you older? What kind of Jeep is it?
It's a Wrangler Sport, 2020.
15. Okay.
It's fun to drive, awful for long-term road trips. You go on the highway and you get a little bit of gust of wind going in a counter direction. If I can drive that car, if I learn how to drive in that car,
Yeah.
a sedan or anything low to the ground is going to be like cake.
So is that your first car? Did you buy it like that, or did you buy it stock and lifted it? Okay.
But it's a long story to get. I don't want to get into it truthfully, but
You have it now, and that's what you drive. Got it. Got it.
long story. Yeah, I'm thinking about trading it out eventually because I'm a great college car.
That's
I like it, it was cool, but I need something practical now. Something that actually has a gas mileage.
what do you get in it?
Not enough. It's really bad. It's not as bad as other cars, but like
That's
prices are so fluctuating. And
that's what I had my first Jeep was a '94 YJ with the square headlights, and it was great college, high school car. I lifted it, had 37s. I think it was like an 8-inch lift with 37 tires on it, and it was so much fun to drive. I think I topped out at like 70 miles an hour on the interstate. Like that was my top speed.
I go 80, and I'm like the wheel is constantly moving. Like the steering wheel is
Yeah.
constantly counterbalancing.
See, I did. Whenever I lifted it, I ended up doing a custom steering kit. That was a there's basically just straight metal bars without tie rod ends. It was like a bolt straight through the. You had to drill out the steering knuckle
Oh wow.
and use like not a pinion. It was a certain type of fitting. That was like a ball almost, and would revolve. So you didn't have the death wobble in it.
Yeah.
So it was a beast to turn.
wobble.
So the Gladiator though,
Mhm.
dude, you can do. I think I did 97 the other day, and just you can let go of the steering wheel.
That's so messed up. Come on now. So, my dad, he used to collect cars.
That's awesome.
And back in like the mid 2000s, we had this. Hold on. We had this old Bronco. It was like baby blue.
Ooh.
It was. I was too young to really have an appreciation for it. But like looking back, it was like, that's a nice car. It was like, it just looked nice.
Old Broncos are just gorgeous.
And it was, I don't remember the exact modification, but like everyone getting Broncos at that time was doing some modification to like the wheels, or like, I'm not that savvy on cars, even though I should be. But the part that like covers your wheels, or like the part of your car that like houses
Fenders?
the wheels, yeah, something like
Fenders?
that. People have been making
inner wheel well.
Yes, that exact thing. They were making like irreversible adjustments to it that would like permanently change the car. And my dad is like a purist with the Bronco, and he's like, I don't want to sell it to somebody that's gonna do that to
Right.
him. And
It has to remain
yes,
pure.
so he sold it to somebody, and he was happy with it. And then like a few months later, he called in. He's like, hey, I was wanting to do this. Is this the right way to do it? And I remember seeing his face. It looked like all the blood just drained from his body, and his soul just kind of went to another dimension. He was so sad the rest of the day.
Why are you doing that to the Bronco?
I mean, they don't make them anymore, do they? Or are they starting to? Aren't they starting to make them again? I forget. I really don't know.
What?
Yeah, are they making Broncos again?
Yeah.
I thought they were. They stopped for a while, didn't they?
They stopped for a while. They just brought them back. Now you can get like the newer ones and all that. Like they have the newer ones. They have the same concept, but you can take the doors off,
Yeah.
the roofs off. So the new ones are. I was torn between that and a Jeep, but I ended up going with the Jeep.
And then we also used to have.
You said complete collision?
Yeah.
Chuck,
You want me to just go in?
I'll do it later.
All right. Sorry.
6 652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Talking about renting out your own car with Patrick Ribby on. One of the biggest issues that could come up from that is what happens if that car gets into an accident. Hey, where do you take it? Might I suggest Complete Collision Center? They've got 2 locations, Plank Road and Zachary, Perkins Road just east of Bluebonnet. There's a number of different reasons to go to Complete Collision Center. One of them is they're going to take on the battle with your insurance company, and make no bones about it, there will be a battle with your insurance company. But for me, it's about the knowledge, the continuing education, and the certifications. Look, they don't build cars like they used to, and they don't repair them like they used to either. Today's vehicles have advanced lightweight materials, safety features, crumple zones, sensors. They all help protect your family. They're built for safety. Repairing them properly after a collision requires up-to-date training. Complete Collision has that training. It's the iCar Gold Class certification. Only 15% of body shops nationwide carry this certification, and Complete Collision is one of them. Want to learn more? Check out CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. So, Turo, if you could handicap it, the likelihood of it taking off to the same level as Uber and Lyft. You think it gets there?
I don't think so. In all honesty, I think it'll have a great run, but I think something drastically terrible will happen.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
It'll kill it.
That's where I'm at, because that would be something very, very difficult to recover from.
There's going to be too many cars possibly getting stolen. That's going to happen. Or someone's going to get totaled. Because if you don't have a tracker in your car and someone takes it, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right, 100 episodes in. So that's no small accomplishment. Let's talk a little bit about it. What's your favorite part about doing the podcast?
My favorite part is ultimately hearing the new stories and learning about the new businesses I wasn't aware of before they came on the show.
Give me some examples.
So yesterday we did 102, and we did it at a Struma brewery.
Struma Brewery?
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Exactly my point. I'd never been there when it's right like 10 minutes from my parents' house in St. Gabriel. They have 14 acres of land. They've got a brewery, a restaurant, and they're trying to get to farm to table, but from their own farm.
Okay.
So they make beers, they make food, and it's a really cool place on the inside. Like, I walked in and was like, this place is anything like what we have in Baton Rouge. And it's only a 16, 18-minute drive from my house.
Okay.
Absolutely incredible. But also being able to sit down and meet new people or hear people's stories that I wasn't aware of. Hearing Flynn Foster's story was incredible.
Yeah.
And looking back on the olden days of recording on the porch, having you come out.
Did you just really say the olden days? Oh, no, from your podcast.
From
I thought you were talking about the world of radio.
No, from the podcast
of. Yeah, we're on your back porch.
We're on my back porch.
Sweating.
With cicadas in the background.
A lot of them.
So many, and it's still the same during the summertime. Still so loud. But still going from that to going to a full production crew, it's so much of a change that it's crazy to think about. It's only happened over 2 years.
Okay, Struma Brewing. Sorry, I'm distracted by this. It's off of Highway 30 to Bayou Paul Lane.
Yeah, so from here you would take Highway 30 all the way down to Bayou Paul, take a left on Bayou Paul, take your first right, go around the bend, and it's right there.
I got to check this out.
It's a great, fun family environment.
You never hear family environment and brewery, but I like it.
So,
I'm all about it.
I was there last night, and they had kids running around outside.
Okay.
So they've got games for kids to play. It's a really neat experience.
Baton Rouge needs more of that, by the way. We've spent so long as a community where there's, Anyway, back to it. So learning from new businesses or learning from different types of businesses, you learn just how diverse we actually are in the city. It goes so much deeper than when you only hear from the same venues and the same outlets repeatedly. This opens things up to new worlds. What were a few of your favorites? You mentioned Flynn Foster. What were a few of your other favorites?
Flynn's was fun. I really liked Gordy's.
Mm-hmm.
Gordy's.
You don't have to keep it in the building.
I know, but genuinely, I enjoyed his. His Scott Godin's was fun.
Yeah.
Learning about the banking industry. And
which, by the way, he's up and running now.
Yeah, today, actually, September 30th.
Okay.
As I think is like the grand unveiling of their building. So.
Which is going to be over on near
Town
Center.
It's already there.
What I shouldn't say it's going to be, but
it's there. Signage is up. They're open, ready for business.
Very nice. Currency Bank.
Yeah, they were fun. Actually, the Bourbon Society was a fun episode to record.
I would guess so.
We were still at my house, so we did it in my living room, and we
Mm-hmm.
actually did like a full-on bourbon tasting, sampling how to taste bourbon, what you're looking for.
Okay.
So doing that with David and his wife was really, really fun.
Care to elaborate? Not just leave that out there like that? Wow. Whew. Okay. Your call.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Drinking bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Tasting bourbon.
Yes.
With David and Jamie.
Yeah. So what's to come? Are you done, or are you just gonna keep going?
No, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna take a break in
Mm-hmm.
November and December because I've got a little one coming, so I've got to kind of be at the house and make sure that we go through that first baby.
Mhm.
So we'll hit it hard in 2022. We're still gonna be recording in October, maybe a couple in November. We're gonna do a little bit of an additional segment in those 2 months, like Flashback Fridays.
Okay.
Where we bring on past guests, do like a State of the Union. Where are they now?
Okay.
Since they've been on the show.
Well, and that's an important thing to look at, because it's not just about somebody who pops up a new business. It's about sustainability as well. When you look at Baton Rouge as a market, like, 'cause things change. COVID has done a lot of that. Hurricanes do a lot of that. Just a shift in markets do a lot of that.
Yeah, I know of 3 past guests that have completely shifted their business model since they were on the show.
Really?
So it's catching up with them. How was it? Why'd you make the shift? What did you learn from your old way of doing your business?
So the episode that's out right now is episode number 100. So you brought someone in to interview you.
Yes. I brought
Okay.
in my producer, Cody, with Flashbang.
Okay.
So he sat down. We went to high school together, so we had some knowledge of each other from probably a decade of whenever we met.
All right.
So it was a lot of fun. We did a government taco.
Always fun at government taco.
Always fun
Hard
at
to
government
hear.
taco. It is hard to hear.
Because it's always lively. There's always a lot going on. It's a very intimate setting, but you get it's people enjoying themselves.
Which is good. I mean,
Yeah,
you want that. And it
absolutely.
was nice to see it still lively, even though we were recording an episode right in the middle of the restaurant.
Yeah. All right. Available wherever you get your podcast. The Patty G Show episode number 100 is up right now. We got to take a break. We're going to hit news. On the back end of news, we'll have top stories and trending. Patrick, I always appreciate you coming in, man.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Let's get you to CBS News here at Talk 107.3 FM, followed by traffic, weather, then hour 2 coming your way. So, oh, shoot. Was I really 5 seconds early? Yeah. It's my bad. Sorry about that. How long till the baby's here?
November 19th is the due date. So 6 weeks? 7. She's...
She? Do we have a name yet?
Oh, no, my wife is 33 weeks. Let me finish that sentence. She is 33 weeks.
Gotcha.
So we have 7 weeks. We don't know what it is. We're not finding out. We're going to be a surprise.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
It'll either be Quentin Douglas or Yvette Marie.
So you do have names.
So we have names, yeah.
Okay.
So we're not flying blind.
Quentin Douglas or Yvette Marie?
Mhm.
Why Yvette Marie?
We like Yvette, and Marie has been like 2 generations worth of middle names for girls in her family.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah, kill him. Well, yeah. I mean,
Cuban-sized family.
that's.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking from experience.
Chandler says you got to check out Astruma. It is awesome.
Dude,
I will.
Struma is legit. Like, just the vibe they have over there. I was talking with him. I was like, y'all, there's nothing like this kind of vibe. Like, you walk into it, and you're like, where are we? And
I'm down.
You can't see the road from it because of how Bayou Paul is laid out. So we're actually probably going to start. I was talking with the owner last night. We're probably going to start recording our shifts there. We worked out a little deal. We're going to start filming.
So. Strum Brewing or Beer Garden. It's 20 minutes from here.
Yeah.
I just don't know why I've never heard of this place.
You've never heard of it?
Of Astruma Brewing. No, I just did like.
Well, they opened last October, so they're still relatively new.
All right.
But I'm serious. Take your kids out there. Take your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, my buddy Chandler who texted, I need to bring his family as well.
There you go. Have a family night there. That's a lot of fun.
I mean, I like the idea of having a family night at a brewery.
Heck yeah. They've got their chef does an amazing job with their food.
Affordable? Like cheap?
Honestly, don't know.
Okay. It's the downside, isn't it?
What? Downside of not.
Of getting things for trade.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
honestly don't know what it costs.
No concept of cost.
But the beers are delicious because they're the brewery. It's all their stuff.
Right. We went to Tin Roof last Friday. Yeah, it's so good.
Tin Roof is good. They don't
Only
have
thing.
a kitchen.
No, you got to bring your own food in.
That's what I thought. They don't have a kitchen.
And yeah, I grabbed some Pluckers gift cards because it's right up Nicholson, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the call. Go to Pluckers and get a Tin Roof.
Yeah. I gotta talk Mooya into moving in over here so I can grab some.
Yum Thursday coming up.
You got it.
You can bring some Mooya when you go.
What? How's it Struma?
No, when you go.
Oh.
Tin
Pluck.
Roof.
Yeah, Tin Roof. Yeah. Yeah, I mean Pluckers right there. It's so easy. It's so
It's
good.
It's convenient.
Right.
And very, very easy to grab and go.
Yep.
So, all right.
All right, dude.
Y'all have a good weekend.
You too.
Y'all be good.
I need to get with Scott. They need to start. We're gonna have lunch Monday, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I'm doing the Rotary offsite thing over there. I still gotta register. Hopefully he's not full.
Rotary offsite.
Yeah. Oh, instead of going to the Rotary Club for a meeting, different Rotary members host a smaller meeting for a group to go out.
Oh, there you go.
And I saw Currency was on there. So.
You should host yours at Struma.
Well, that's the point. Is you're supposed to bring people to your business, but yes.
Bring them here.
Yeah.
Bring the new podcast studio.
We need to. We need to start selling that thing. .707 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Thanks again to Patrick Grimion for hopping on board with us at the in hour 1. 100 episodes in on the Patty G show, and yeah, that business model, renting out your own car. There's certain things where I don't know if I could be part of that crossover. Uber and Lyft makes sense to me. Airbnb makes sense to me. Crossing the streams between those two just does not. Anyway, coming up this hour, we're going to have Crimestoppers later on. Sergeant Don Capola should be by at 7:35 for Crimestoppers. And also, in our next segment, we're going to head it down to Grand Isle. Actually, I believe the guy we're talking to is in Baton Rouge right now, but he's been back and forth to Grand Isle. The Baton Rouge Fire Department has a task force that has been going down to Grand Isle, deployed, if you will, for Hurricane Ida recovery. What put this task force together? How far have they come along in Grand Isle, and how much more do they have to go? We're going to dive into that in our next segment. Right now, though, we start this hour off with top stories and trending. Let's go. A lot of Baton Rouge Fire Department this hour. Starting off with this, a payroll audit conducted by the city parish of Baton Rouge found major problems at Baton Rouge Fire and made a concerning conclusion about allegations of payroll fraud and malfeasance in office. CAO Daryl Gissel told the WBRZ investigative unit Wednesday the mayor's office received information from multiple people about issues at the fire department. That's when an audit was conducted. That audit was completed this month. The audit found the payroll clerk claimed and was paid $3,256 in overtime that she computed by counting sick leave as hours worked. The clerk had no oversight. There was no review of the information entered into the payroll system. It found other irregularities surrounding sick leave during the pandemic as well. Interim Fire Chief Chad Major says he wants the public to know what happened. He wants them to know what happened was an internal issue and has since been corrected. He said that Baton Rouge police are investigating. The employee involved is also under investigation. The trial of a man accused in the kidnapping and murder of a Baton Rouge couple ended just as soon as it began. Frank Garcia, charged in the 2015 killings of Dennis and Suzanne DePlanche, took a plea deal yesterday. That'll keep him in prison for 30 years. Garcia pleaded guilty to lesser charges of manslaughter in the killings. Quote, "We think this is a reasonable outcome, not one that we would like to have for the family, but we're satisfied," said District Attorney Hiller Moore. Couple of shootings this September has turned out to be a pretty violent month in Baton Rouge. Number one, police are investigating a shooting on South Boulevard, left one man dead early yesterday morning. Around 2:12 a.m., 31-year-old Marcus Cook was fatally shot on South Boulevard. Cook died at the scene. Police have not identified a suspect nor a motive. Keeping it with that same story, a man shot in a neighborhood off Prescott Road late Tuesday night has passed away. 44-year-old Cedric Williams was shot multiple times at his home on West Brookstown Drive around 9:30 p.m. Tuesday. Rushed to a hospital. He died overnight last night. No known motive nor suspect at that time in that case either. By the way, Baton Rouge has surpassed 100 homicides for the year during the month of September. We are currently at 107. Mother of a 2-year-old who was found dead over the weekend is now charged in that toddler's death. Police have also upgraded charges against her boyfriend. Just an hour before BRPD held a news conference to discuss new developments in the death of Nevaeh Allen, officers at a state police facility were seen placing the girl's mother, Lanaya Cardwell, in the back of a police unit in handcuffs. Police confirmed at that briefing Wednesday that Cardwell was charged with second-degree murder. Arrest documents say the 2-year-old picked up Cardwell's contact lenses in the morning while she was getting ready for work. Cardwell punched the toddler, causing her to fall backward and hit her head on a cabinet. An autopsy report said Nevaeh had multiple bruises on her face and head, along with swelling in her brain. The coroner noted that the marks on her face resembled handprints. There were also bruises on her thighs and rear. Injuries to her abdomen were consistent with being punched in the stomach. I can't go on. Back to the fire department. They've made an arrest yesterday as well. Officials say a man has been arrested on charges of arson and related to a fire in an old South Baton Rouge home earlier this month. According to the Baton Rouge Fire Department, 52-year-old Eric Hogebrook was arrested Wednesday for intentionally setting fire to a vacant house on Thomas Delpit Drive back on September 26. Now, this guy's got a history of arson-related arrests. Officials say he was previously arrested and charged with arson in 1999 and again in 2009. Currently being investigated for his possible involvement in a number of blazes that occurred at other vacant house fires in Old South Baton Rouge, fire officials say. Authorities report that a warrant for Hogebrook's arrest was secured in relation to the one on Thomas Delpit house, that house fire. He was apprehended in the 1800 block of Virginia Street without incident yesterday morning. That's a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. YouTube beefing up their misinformation policies. YouTube says they're going to remove videos containing misinformation about any approved vaccine, including those designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Social media platforms said anyone who posts misinformation about any, quote, currently administered vaccines that are approved and confirmed to be safe and effective by local health authorities and the WHO will be subject to YouTube's strike policy and could face removal. On their blog, the company said it'll include content that falsely says approved vaccines cause autism, cancer, or infertility, or that substances in vaccines can track those who receive them. That is a look at your top stories and trending. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, going to talk about the Baton Rouge Fire Department Task Force that's in Grand Isle, excuse me. Before we take that break, though, getting geared up for the weekend. Are you set for tailgating? If you are not, you need to swing by Mathern's, either location. Downtown on 3rd Street or Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive, you're going to find a craft beer selection that is, I'll put it up against any craft beer selection in Baton Rouge. It is phenomenal. And if you need a recommendation, ask for one. They've never steered me wrong. They're not going to steer you wrong either. Plus, while you're there, it's not just about grabbing your craft beer for game day or any of your beers for game day. It's about getting that full game day shopping list down, getting it going. You're going to be tailgating for the Auburn game on Saturday? Yes, you can get that done at Mathern's. They are a full-service grocery store at both locations. I know, like the lunch counter downtown is fantastic, but it's still a full-service grocery store. Over there on campus, it's not just for students. It is a full-service grocery store for all of us. Both locations of Mathern's, downtown on 3rd or the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Get your game day shopping done right now. Oh, also, don't forget to join the rewards program. They got a lot of cool stuff coming on the way. It's simple. You can join up while you're at the checkout counter. The rewards program is off and running right now. So that's also at both locations of Mathern's. All right, I need to give you this guy's phone number. Yup. You got it. David Saint Remain says that last story makes you sick. Yeah, me too, man. I just had to stop. Like, who beats up a 2-year-old till they're dead? God. .716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So it was, I guess, about a week or so ago, it was announced that the Baton Rouge Fire Department has an elite task force that, well, they've been deployed a couple times. They've helped out with a few storms. They went to South Carolina a couple years ago. They have helped out after either Delta or Zeta last year. Well, they've been deployed again down to Grand Isle to help clean up from Hurricane Ida. Joining us now is Michael Kimble with the Baton Rouge Fire Department. He's the commander of this task force. Michael, good morning, sir. How are you?
How you doing this morning, Brian?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Doing outstanding.
Good deal. So let's rewind the clock here and talk about how this task force got put together. I want to say y'all were sent to South Carolina first, right?
Oh, the task force comes back all the way to 2005 for the state USAR team.
Oh.
That's where it all started after Hurricane Katrina. The state dumped a bunch of money and showing that we needed some assets here without having to call other states to assist us. And we have a collaborative group across the state of USAR responders through the fire service, EMS, law enforcement that makes up different regions is where it started initially. But since about 2016, since the flood, it's been an ongoing operation for us every year with multiple deployments across the country.
Okay. All right. That's so what skill sets put this thing together? Because I don't normally think of fire department and hurricane recovery together. It's that I think of installing roofs and whatnot.
Well, this is a very unique situation for us in the Baton Rouge Fire Department. Within the USAR world, we have a group of people that help manage these incidents for the response of bringing all these different resources together to make the rescue operations come together when you got people from all across the country for one operation. Well, this situation in Grand Isle, our department, we sent some people down there to assist in the recovery operations. That's something we've never done before, but it shows this incident management team has the resources and the knowledge and also the skill set to bring all these resources as one operation and work together for the common goal of getting that city back up in recovery operation.
How bad is it right now?
It's getting better every day. Of course, from the day one, destruction like you've never imagined.
Yeah.
Looking at it on TV is one thing, but seeing it firsthand is a total eye opener of what how severe and how much damage they did receive.
Give us some specific examples of the work that this task force has gotten done to date with
Okay,
the storm.
this group, and Brian, this group is part of the USAR team, but specifically for this, they're assigned from the Baton Rouge Fire Department. This was a request strictly to the Baton Rouge Fire Department.
Mm-hmm.
The incident management team falls under USAR through the Baton Rouge Fire Department. These guys are down there working with the locals, the state, and federal officials, assisting them to make sure that all the resources come through one common place. They're all in one room. They're assisting in making sure that working with the energy company, getting the power back on, the water company, all the military people that's there, assisting in clearing the roadway, getting food and shelter, fuel back on the island. Anything that involves the recovery operation for Grand Isle is being funneled through the Baton Rouge Fire Department incident management team.
I mean, that's a pretty diverse set of a diverse checklist, to say the least.
Yes, sir, it is. Unfortunately, these guys know how to manage resources. They don't have to know much about the operations side, but they know how to manage their assets and their resources that's there. And at the end of the day, as long as one person's talking to another, everything comes together and the job's getting done. And they're making very drastic moves, and everything is coming along very quickly.
What are the biggest challenges so far? Is it the logistics? Is it getting the moving parts to get where you can start repairing things, or is it the devastation overall, the damage that was caused by the storm?
No doubt that the devastation of the damage that was done
Mm-hmm.
was a process. You got to clear all that out, right? I mean, they had a bunch of sand that was pushed in from the levee when the levee breached. They have to clear all that out before they can really start getting work done, right? And Grand Isle is as they say, at the end of the world, right? I mean, that's a long ways down there. It's not, you can't go get a part 10 minutes up the road. They having to go hours to go get more equipment, or if they need more resources, it takes a little while to get them there to them to assist in the recovery. So getting the people there has been a good thing. They have numerous energy folks, numerous military people there that's been assisting in clearing the roads. They're starting to try to get the power back on here in the next couple of days in small areas and getting their water system back up and going.
Yeah, I would imagine the power and the water, I mean, just logistically, that should come last. You want to have everything else structurally done before that, because the second you have power, the people are going to want to flock back in.
Correct. And I don't know the particulars on how they're managing that. They're letting some people back in at times. I know they're in the future trying to get everything built up. Our guys went in and built a database for them and to make sure who's who and who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there, making sure they're getting out to the media assets to make sure that information is put out across the board of when to come and when not to come.
We got Michael Kimball with us. He's with Baton Rouge Fire Department. He's a task force commander for this group that's down there in Grand Isle right now. Michael, I got to ask you, just comparatively speaking, with the other storms that y'all have been deployed for, is this the worst you've seen?
Devastation-wise, by all means, this one was the worst. I compared to Hurricane Michael in Panama City.
Mm-hmm.
This one here puts on top of that, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because there are a lot of comparables there, because you just talk about the storm surge just pushing sand across everything else, the wind damage knocking things down. This storm hit Grand Isle in a very similar manner to the way that Michael hit Florida. Now, the difference being, once you got further inland, this storm slowed down a lot more.
Correct.
But as far as Grand Isle was concerned, yeah, it is a pretty side-by-side comparison.
Right. And there's places down there, I mean, nothing but a slab or an empty lot. There's no pilings left, nothing. I mean, there's nothing there. And then there's some that managed to weather the storm pretty good.
So time frame wise, what are we looking at moving forward, and how much of that are y'all going to be involved in? All right, let's actually break that down into two parts. What is y'all's timeline looking like? How long do you plan on having this task force down there?
When the original requests come in, we agreed to a 3-month commitment to assist Jefferson Parish and whatever resources they needed, we would be there for them.
Okay, does it look like it might go beyond that?
At this time, it looks like 3 months is where it will be.
Okay.
You never can tell what's going to pop up.
Yeah. Well, if for no other reason, we got 2 more months of hurricane season left.
Correct. And that's why we rotate our people out every week to make sure they stay fresh,
mm-hmm.
and also make sure we have resources here in the city of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish to be prepared if another event happens here for us locally.
You rotate people out every week. Are y'all staying down there? I mean, is there a place to stay down there?
Yeah, they have a building that never lost power. It's a concrete building that can maintain Hurricane 5 winds. They stay in there, got generators, living area, office space. So the conditions for the guys that's working are pretty good. They're not in bad shape at all. So they're very comfortable in their work environment.
What do you feel are some of the stronger suits? I mean, to transfer over the skill set from a fireman to literally everything else under the sun that you need to get done down there.
Say that one more time, Brian. You cut out.
What are some of the transferable skill sets here to go from fireman to everything else that you're asked to do in this regard?
Well, again, this group of people that make up our incident management team have all different knowledge and skill sets of computer skills, technology of building databases and websites, whatnot. We have some guys that are very, very smart that know more than just putting water on fire, right? There's more that goes into that when you're dealing with the fire service. And that's what most people think that's what firemen do, but that's not so true. We have to be able to manage large incidents and be able to be prepared for the next step and know what's coming, and just be able to put all your resources together and know how to allocate them and delegate them across the board.
Well, I know y'all are getting after it and staying after it. 3 months, it feels like it's a long time right now, but I'm sure in the long term, I mean, we look at the comparisons to Katrina, and that took a heck of a lot longer than 3 months as well. So I'm sure it's 3 months. It won't seem like it's flying by right now, but in hindsight, probably will look that way. And the meanwhile, keep it up. Keep after. Oh, wait, what's the immediate timeline looking like next? Like, for example, you talked about how power and water would likely be last in line to get done. Where are we at on that timeline?
Well, I do know, talking to the guys last night that's there, they're in the process of trying to get some of the power back on here in the near future.
Okay.
In certain areas, right? I mean, there's a lot of work they have to do, but just being able to get power back to the island is a huge operation. And I think that's where they're working towards now.
No, it absolutely is. And in touring the damage getting down there, inside levee protection versus outside levee protection was the difference of night and day. And Grand Isle is obviously outside of levee protection. So it is that will be a no small task, to say the least. And no, absolutely. Y'all keep after it, man. Good work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you. He is Michael Kimble with the Baton Rouge Fire Department Task Force Commander, taking on what's going on down there in Grand Isle right now. And yeah, I got to see the damage up close a couple weeks ago. It's no small task, to say the least. It is. It's one of those ones where you put eyes on it and you really can't believe what you're seeing. Especially, like, we all love Grand Isle. Well, love going down there. The Grand Isle it dials the blood pressure down. It is like a great vacation spot. But for a lot of folks, it's not a vacation spot. It's home. And seeing that up close was hard. Seeing that up close was difficult to digest. So, yeah, they've got a huge task in front of them, to say the least. 3-month deployment. 3-month deployment sounds short, actually. I know once they're in it, while they're in it, they're down there rotating guys week after week. But while they're in it, it's going to seem like it's dragging on forever. But in the grand scheme of things, 3 months for the level of devastation that island took on, it's going to feel like a really long time. Crimestoppers going to be coming your way in just a little bit, 727 at Talk 107.3 FM. Crimestoppers going to be coming your way in just a little bit after we check news, traffic, and weather. By the way, since we have news coming your way in just 3.5 minutes? 3 minutes. Since news is coming your way in 3 minutes, one of the things CBS is going to be talking about, Congress is averting a crisis. Looking like the House is expected to approve a measure following a Senate vote today, preventing a partial governmental shutdown when the new fiscal year begins tomorrow. Reading from the Associated Press story, Democrats were forced to remove a suspension of the federal government's borrowing limit from the bill at the insistence of Republicans. If the debt limit isn't raised by October 18th, the country would likely face a financial crisis and economic recession, says Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Republicans say Democrats have the votes to raise the debt ceiling on their own. Republican leader Mitch McConnell is insisting that they do so. I don't understand why that's not more of a trend. Everything should be individually done and voted on its own merits, but as we know with Congress, everything's going to be piled into one bucket, And if you vote for it or against it, you gotta realize you're voting for or against everything or anything that's in that individual bucket. Back to the story. The most immediate priority facing Congress is to keep the government running once the current fiscal year ends at midnight Thursday, which that didn't get in the way of the softball game last night, but that's neither here nor there. The bill's expected approval will buy lawmakers more time to craft the spending bills that will fund federal agencies and the programs they administer. Meanwhile, Democrats are struggling over how to get President Joe Biden's top domestic priorities over the finish line. That includes a bipartisan infrastructure bill that contains $550 billion in new spending for roads, bridges, broadband, and other priorities, as well as, and I love how they just slipped this in, a $3.5 trillion slate of social, health, and environmental programs. Yes, $550 billion for road, bridges, broadband, and the like. $3.5 trillion for social, health, and environmental programs. We talked with Congresswoman Julia Letlow about this yesterday. And by the way, those bills were separate before. $1.2 trillion infrastructure, of which $550 billion was for the roads, bridges, blah, blah, blah. The $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill is what they're calling it, although I don't think you can reconcile it in any way, shape, or form. Those are separate as of yesterday. We talked with Congresswoman Letlow, who's going to be a no vote on it. We talked with Congressman Troy Carter on Tuesday, who was a yes vote on the infrastructure package. We will talk with Congressman Garrett Graves tomorrow, once this is all hopefully settled, said, and done, about where he voted on both infrastructure and the $3.5 trillion. It's been a weird spot to be in because you don't want to turn your nose up at $550 billion. But of that, only $6 billion is actually slated to come to Louisiana for roads and bridges. Now, there can be more by applying for grants and the like. But Congresswoman Letlow's take yesterday was an interesting one, in that if you're the Joe Biden administration and you're awarding grants, you could look at Louisiana from an electoral college standpoint and say, didn't need you last time, don't need you this time. We'll follow it as it unfolds today and have more on it tomorrow. Right now, though, it's time for us to get caught up with CBS News. Don Capola. What's happening, brother? Got a tie on, man. That's a good looking tie too. I like that. I like that. Is that?
I thought today was like a special day.
Why is it a special day? All right. Oh, good. Hey, kill the mics for a second. What's my next live?
Oh, I was just trying to come back to that. You didn't have, I don't have one yet.
Okay.
Because you've done readout, you've done returns, you've done
Complete collision.
that's all that you've had so far.
All right.
This is one of those segments where I just lead in with Crimestoppers, right?
Yes.
And this weather, I had no idea yesterday it was gonna. The bottom.
We
was
lost
falling.
power. We had drainage problems. Jones Creek got dangerously close to overflowing.
Did it?
BRPT just showed up.
In this segment?
BRPT 7
Okay.
And that's not too common for Jones Creek, is it?
That's not too what?
It's not. Is that uncommon for Jones Creek? Or
I mean, it's one of the first ones to flood, especially up around like the Sherwood Broadmoor area, early on in the creek. But like, so I go back and forth to when I'm going to the gym. I take Molly Lee, which crosses right over it. Right, it crosses over on Goodwood, Planet Fatness over there on Airline by High Neighbor.
wait, airline.
Not Airline. I'm sorry, Florida by High Neighbor.
Right there by the old Broadmoor.
Yeah, it's an old Broadmoor shopping center. Yeah. Yeah. So as I'm crossing,
You hit the gym, and is that Ronnie's right there?
bro, that's so not fair. You walk out of the gym and you smell boudin, like,
Or
I'm like, just
do
get
you
back
go
to the car.
first, and then do you?
I don't. Well, I would love to go to Ronnie's more often, but
Man, that's really good. Then they have the wing place.
Wing Stop's right there. Yeah.
Yeah, a good buddy of mine's jeweler's right there, KG's Jewelers.
Yeah.
Super good down there.
I love what they've done in that whole shopping center area. They've really brought it back to life.
I miss the
The theater. Everybody does.
If you have information that you think would help solve a crime, call 344-STOP. All it takes is a phone and an open mind. No one will know. It's Crimestoppers on Talk 107.3 FM.
Yes, it's time for Crime Stoppers. Time to welcome in Sergeant Don Capola. Don, what's happening, man?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. A lot of folks with a heavy heart this morning after that press conference yesterday, learning
Yes.
about what happened with Nevaeh. Actually, before we get into talking about fugitives and catching some bad guys, there's some folks y'all have already caught. And it goes back to this 2-year-old and its 2-year-old's death. Mother and boyfriend charged with murder. We got to talk about it a little bit. I mean,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
it's
As
it's
much as we
uncomfortable.
can, of course, this still remains an ongoing investigation.
Sure.
But the Philip Gardner was charged initially as this investigation developed. Of course, this 2-year-old Angel was found in Hancock County, Mississippi, and Brian, everyone involved, the local, the state, the federal, Hancock authorities, I believe wildlife and fisheries in the Mississippi area as well. Everyone who played a part into this had such a vital role, and just shows that everyone comes together, especially when you're dealing with anybody, but now you're dealing with a 2-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
And the amount of calls, the amount of outreach from the community was just incredible.
Well, and it started before we knew the brutality behind what went down. I mean, after the coroner's report came out, everybody was just disgusted. But even before that, when it was this 2-year-old is missing, you were telling me during the break the level of interaction y'all got on social media was just
It was incredible. The amount, yes. So somewhere around, it reached 600,000 people, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay, and the shares and the comments and if it was nothing more than the praying hands or just some form of encouragement, please find this little girl safe, and you're in our thoughts and prayers, and it was just incredible, and the amount of people that contacted the department, contacted Crimestoppers, it's really sad the outcome of this.
It is on any day. I mean, as a dead 2-year-old is going to be sad. Killed in this manner, it goes from sad to just disgusting, and those who are accused are in custody already. Actually, the mother was taken into custody just before the press conference yesterday.
The mother was
right?
taken into custody yesterday on a charge of second-degree murder, and Philip Gardner's charges were upgraded to second-degree murder around the time of the press conference. Just upon the conclusion of it, we got word from the district attorney that his charges were upgraded to second-degree murder as well.
So, and I'll probably have Hill or more on in the very near future, probably next week, I believe. But hopefully we could talk a little bit about this. But since it is an ongoing investigation, there's not a lot you could say as far as the details behind where it moves from here with the charges and all that other stuff. I do want to go back one more time to the overwhelming amount of support, because that's what we talk about during our Crime Stopper segment, is getting the people involved. And yes, this is one that's going to be a call to action like no other. Like there's a dead 2-year-old is going to motivate people.
Yes.
But it's at least got to be, I don't want to say encouraging, but at least it's got to be in the back of your mind that once you see people can be motivated, there's got to be a belief that you can motivate them to help solve other crimes as well.
Absolutely, Brian, and not just with this 2-year-old. The amount of support you get on a daily basis through Crimestoppers tips, through messages on social media. The community is involved, and it just shows that we rely heavily on the community in solving these crimes. Okay. Our investigators around the Crimestopper area, they're the best of the best. But it's with the help of the community, the phone calls, the anonymous tips, whether it confirm something the investigators have already working, or it's that little piece that puts them over the top that they were looking for, no matter how big or how small. And we say it time and time again, if you have information, no matter how minute you may think it is, that may be the piece that's missing in an investigation.
And this one all came together over the course of a weekend. Now, granted, it was the boyfriend of the mother who led them where they needed to go, but there was no shortage of tips coming in, and like you said, in prayers as well. So let's hope that level of interaction can carry over to some other crimes.
And it has before this, and we know that it will. And again, we can't not show our appreciation for the community and their involvement in assisting with these investigations.
So let's catch some bad guys. Who's out there? Who are we looking for today?
So we're first going to start with Charlotte Small, 31-year-old, wanted by the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office on the charge of exploitation of persons with infirmities and theft. This theft was around $10,700.
Oh my!
The victim in this incident has some handicap disabilities. Was away for a little while. While away, checks kept coming into the mail. We believe that Small is an acquaintance of this individual. Well, Small takes the checks, and instead of the checks going into the proper account, they go into another account.
Interesting.
So, as when the victim returns, the victim realizes that the money is missing out of the account that should be in the account. Through investigation, it's learned that Small fraudulently took these checks coming in and redirected the deposit into another account instead of the account it should have been going.
This sounds intricate to say the least. I mean, this sounds like it takes some doing to get this done. Did this person have, I mean, obviously had access, but
had access, and it's I don't think at the time, and no one would, somebody who's an acquaintance of yours or close to you in that form or fashion would do this, but it was brought to investigators' attention, and they did a fantastic job getting the pieces together and coming up with this warrant.
What's the name on the person again?
Charlika Small.
Charlika Small.
31 years of age, female.
All right. Any information on the whereabouts of Charlika Small?
Yes, Charlika Small.
Hit up Crimestoppers at 344-STOP, or if you've got the P3 app, you can snap off a picture if you see her vehicle, whatever, license plate, you name it. Who's next?
Spencer Dosh. Baton Rouge police investigators are looking for him on the charge of domestic abuse, battery, child endangerment. This is we've talked over time and time again of domestic violence, and this is an incident where the victim in this is also an acquaintance of Dosh. A verbal altercation occurred, which led to him slapping this victim while she had a baby, a 2-week-old baby, in her hands. So, of course, luckily the baby wasn't injured. But here we are again. You never know what could have happened. I mean, the baby could have been hit, dropped,
yeah,
whatnot. So.
Spencer Dosh
on the charge of domestic abuse, battery, child endangerment. Wanted by the Baton
you
Rouge
seem to
police.
have at least one of those floating just about every time you're in here, and it does happen way too frequently, and it does more often than not end up where it's one of the homicides we end up talking about. 107 homicides in Baton Rouge so far this year, and that accounts for a huge number of them.
Many.
Now, this is not that yet. Spencer's not that yet, but where we see it start like this and then escalate, and I think the fact that there's been a report filed, or the fact that people are looking for Spencer, hopefully means that whoever it was that Spencer allegedly hit isn't going back to Spencer anymore.
Well, and you hope that, and the amount of resources that are out there for, and as you mentioned, we talked about this before. It's not just a physical abuse. There's also the verbal abuse that starts sometimes before, and the resources that are out there, the Butterfly Society, the Rouge Center, on and on and on. They're there for a reason. Pick up the phone. I have this going on. Give me some direction. What can I do? Same thing with our next one, Shelton Rogers, wanted by the Baton Rouge Police Department, domestic abuse, battery. Here we are again. Okay?
Yeah.
False imprisonment, violation of protection orders. So who knows which direction this could go, but if you're in a situation, you want to stop it before it gets to the point of no return.
No, absolutely.
So, yes, pick up the phone
and dial 344-STOP. 344-STOP is the number for Crimestoppers. He comes in every week, and we always appreciate the time. Sergeant Don Capola, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. We got Your Money Now coming your way after we check Your Money Now. When we come back on the back end, we will check the outside end. We'll get outside of East Baton Rouge Parish, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy, next.
All righty.
Sorry, that didn't snuck up on us.
Sorry, I could have kept talking forever.
I know. We're rolling.
Not prepared, huh? Oh, goodness. Yeah, man, it's, and to look at that baby, it's like, what a beautiful little baby.
The 2-year-old? I know. Yeah.
And what could a toddler ever do? Now, I know some people who have kids are, they're terrible too, but still.
Wait, wasn't it in the story?
What was that?
Oh, wait. Hang on a second. arrest document said the 2-year-old picked up Caldwell's contact lenses in the morning while she was getting ready for work. And that, like,
You're a toddler. I mean,
I know. Toddlers
You
grab
think of
things.
everything.
I know. But, like, if that triggers you to punch a child, knocking them over, causing the...
there's deeper issues than if that is the case. So, anyway, you need something, Holland.
All right, brother. Always.
Zach still doing well with y'all with Zach or what? Y'all still?
Oh, yeah. We're, kill the mics for a sec. Do what? .755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Sergeant Don Capola for stopping in for Crimestoppers. I mean, that's just a difficult story to talk about. When a 2-year-old is killed in any manner, it's a difficult story to talk about. When a 2-year-old is killed in that manner, it goes from sad to disgusting, and in short order. That just. I appreciate him talking about it, though, as much as he can with a pending investigation or an ongoing investigation. So thanks, Don, and hopefully, if you know anything about any of the fugitives we mentioned, you know where to call 344-STOP. All right, coming up next hour, we're talking with new schools for Baton Rouge. Chris Meyer is going to be in the next hour, and we will dive in there. Right now, though, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. We check in with the surrounding area with a segment we call the Outside In.
It's time to step outside of East Baton Rouge and get inside our surrounding parishes. About time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail.
Damn, just don't listen to that.
I mean, really? Yeah. Explore the space. The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake, with 6 locations and extended hours to fit your needs. BRPT Lake has got you covered. Schedule online now at brptlake.com.
We're going to tell you more about Baton Rouge Physical Therapy in a little bit, but we're going to start off the Outside In West Baton Rouge Parish. A pharmaceutical truck was carjacked on a highway. Thieves stole more than $250,000 in drugs. The West Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office said the truck was driving west on Highway 190. It was flagged over to the shoulder of the road by a motorcyclist around 7:30 in the morning on September 23rd. 2 people in a sports car were also involved in the heist. The 3 tied the truck driver up, held him at gunpoint while stealing the truck. Deputies said the truck was found abandoned in a field in West Baton Rouge Parish by the Louisiana State Police helicopter. 2 men from New Roads, 24-year-old Landry Batley Jr. and 29-year-old Darrell Harris Jr. were both arrested. So a second FEMA disaster recovery center is now open in Ascension Parish. This one is located at the LeMan Memorial Center on Clay Street in Donaldsonville. Going to be in operation from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day from now through October 28th. That actually opened up yesterday. Keeping it in Ascension, Parish President Clint Quinmaw is not done with the Parish Drainage Board just yet. He and members of the Parish Council announced a new agreement yesterday that allows Quinmaw to stay on, but takes away his power to fire anyone from the board, and it brings in an expert to come up with a drainage plan that best suits the parish as a whole. Quinmaw was originally ousted after a contentious council vote back in June, which prompted recall efforts aimed at multiple council members involved. The parish president received a letter last week saying he'd officially be out as head of drainage starting in November. That has since changed. Got a multi-parish story to close things out. There's a break in the red on the COVID map. One day after Governor John Bell Edwards announced a 4-week extension to the state's mask mandate, 6 Louisiana parishes dropped from red to orange, or from the highest risk of community spread to just high risk of community spread. Those 6 parishes to see the dip are Tensaw Parish, Point Capee, West Baton Rouge, St. Helena, St. Bernard, and Cameron Parish. 44 parishes, it's worth noting. 44 of our 64 parishes are actually trending downward in positivity. We can see a lot more orange in that map by this time next week. That is the Outside In, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Hey, if you've got a nagging injury that's just keeping you from being your best you wake up with pain, you maybe go to bed with pain, you might be dipping into the Tylenol a little bit too much, maybe think physical therapy. It's not just about recovering from a major accident or injury. And BRPT introduced physical therapy to Baton Rouge roughly 60 years ago. They've got 6 locations throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. That's why they bring you the Outside In. You'll find them in Ascension. You'll find them in Livingston, and you will find them right here in EBR. They know what they're doing. They're going to sit you down for a full-on consultation, go through your comfort level with physical therapy, where your actual pain points are, and how to work through them. brptlake.com is the website, brptlake.com, or get your complimentary screening at 917-9185 for Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Might have gone over by a second. No. Hey, all right. Let me go let Chris in real quick.
Leg day yesterday?
Leg day every day.
Yes, sir.
COVID-2 originated. Yep. And turns out she lost her voice. So they canceled on me about the same time I texted you last night. Like, go to reschedule for next Wednesday. I'm like, well, just turn the friggin' world upside down. Jake, Chris, Jake. So, yeah, I hate having to go back and move things around, and like Laura had originally texted me to get you squared away, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not in front. Well, yeah. Do I? Yeah. Yeah.
I always happen to do it from the car too.
Yeah, I just
never know what the 7-year-old will say.
Hey, man, real life always takes precedence.
That's right.
So, you said new state fund, innovate and grow high quality schools.
So there's a Kate Brumley came out with a $35 million innovation fund last week. So we can talk about kind of stimulus dollars and what that is and how to do something useful with this money.
EBR board delaying.
Yeah, the early childhood universal pre-K study. And then anything else you want?
Yes, there is one more thing I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Heard the governor's health advisor called that a mistake.
Really?
You hear that? Yeah, he came out and said it's a big mistake. I mean, I think schools.
There's so many contradictions. And we're 19, 20 months into a pandemic. There's going to be contradictions. But it's impossible for people to keep up and say, whoa. It's so dangerous my kid has to wear a mask all day long. But if they come in contact with somebody, we're going to leave them in the same room as everybody else. But I don't want them coming home. They have to be in school. The numbers show they learn better while they're in school, not while they're learning via Zoom.
100%.
So it makes sense for them to have to be in school, but at the same time, when all the worlds collide, there's no way to reconcile everything.
Yeah, and most of these schools are testing now regularly. In a week, there's a new state partnership we can talk about. So,
okay.
Yeah. I think the message is exactly what you said. Kids got to stay in school. And, we're all trying to row as fast as we can in this direction.
No, absolutely.
This is the new normal.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the kids coming home from the close contact quarantining, we went through this last Thanksgiving in our house. My wife and I had COVID. Our kids did not. So the kids had to come home until they had to stay home for 14 days beyond their last contact with a COVID positive person, which we, the parents, except for we have a 2-story house.
Yeah.
So we brought a relative in, and the kids lived upstairs while we lived downstairs.
Yeah.
So we're technically separate. I'm not going to tell you how much of that was a lie. Just because the mics are hot. But
what's the idiocy sometimes of
so if I've got to be 10 days worth of COVID and their 14 days doesn't start until after my 10 days are over, that leaves them out of school for a month.
Yeah. And what's happening during that month? Because
education within the classroom, and on the outside looking in from their standpoint, they're falling behind all month long. This happened to some friends of ours. Their kids actually missed December of last year, all December.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, it's easier to miss all of December because a lot of that's Christmas. But they went from Thanksgiving through Christmas. They went from Thanksgiving to Christmas break to Christmas break. when they went home for Thanksgiving break, they didn't go back to school until the new year.
Yeah.
Stupidity.
Yeah.
And never once had COVID.
Yeah.
We got one segment to knock out first, and then 806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 in Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Got a busy hour this hour. We're going to talk education this hour. Chris Meyer from New Schools for Baton Rouge is in studio, and we're going to dive into a couple of different things. Some new funding coming up. The Innovation Fund. Dr. Cade Brumley, who's going to join us next Tuesday, will be talking about this as well. But also, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board has delayed the plan development for early childhood education. We'll talk about that. And I'd be hard-pressed not to talk about COVID in some way, shape, or form, especially with so much coming down with, number one, the mask mandate extended by another month, which means in schools, K through 12 schools. And the governor made mention of schools specifically for a couple of reasons. Number one, more kids are catching COVID now and sharing it with grown-ups. Number two, under the age of 12 still can't get a vaccine and won't be eligible for a vaccine until November at least. And number three, there's been a change where the state is no longer requiring mandatory quarantine for close contact students. That flies in the face of everything else we just talked about, but there's no way to reconcile all of it. So we will do our best to reconcile all of it when Chris Meyer's in about 10 minutes from right now. Also this hour, I believe we're going to get Condon to come down the hallway later on this hour, talk a little LSU Auburn. This is a series that, in Richard's take, I'll go ahead and spoil it right now. The biggest series on your LSU calendar, on your LSU schedule, is generational. If you are from the 50s and 60s, you more likely pay attention to Ole Miss. If you are from the 70s, or now, Alabama. Early 2000s, Florida. I was a freshman at LSU in 95 to bring back the Magic game. But you run down the LSU Auburn series, you're going to find the number of games that have their own names, their own personas, their own legends and lore, and that's what we're going to talk about with Richard later on. Right now, though, this is the part of the show where Jake takes us back in time for this day in history.
We're going to start things off in 1880. American amateur astronomer Henry Draper, he takes the first ever photograph of the Orion Nebula.
Oh, good for him.
1888, Jack the Ripper murders 2 more women in Whitechapel, London. He's not just a fantasy, he's not just a story, that was a real thing.
Yep.
1898, the city of New York was established.
Your music's going.
There we go.
There it is, yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But 1898, the city of New York was established.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That seems very recent. I feel like
Yeah.
New York is older than that.
I think so too, but according to history, 1898.
Whatever. History's lying. New York's been around forever.
We've been talking about Babe Ruth a lot lately, pretty much every day, and today's no different. 1934, Babe Ruth's final game as a Yankee goes 0 for 3.
Really? It was also on this day that he hit 60.
I think it was
a different year,
he
though.
broke the record again.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mention him twice, but
Yeah.
we'll do it again. Babe Ruth's a legend. What else is new? 1955. We'll get to him in another moment, but American actor and cultural icon James Dean is killed in a car crash at 24.
Well, that would fall under deaths, wouldn't it?
It was under.
You usually do that later.
Yeah, well.
All right.
Oops. 1960. The Flintstones, the first animated sitcom created by Hanna-Barbera, premieres on ABC.
Barbera, and yes.
Barbera.
We were all introduced to the town of Bedrock on this day.
Mm-hmm. 1968. The first Boeing 747 rolls out.
Okay.
1991. Jerry Springer's tabloid talk show, The Jerry Springer Show, debuts on TV.
Golly. 1991. And look how quickly everything degenerated since then. I blame everything on Jerry Springer.
Yeah, I've mentioned Austin Powers an alarming amount of times this week. He was also in Austin Powers, the second one, in the very beginning.
Really?
The Jerry Springer show featured the return of Dr. Evil.
Okay.
Anyways, the last thing I'll have to mention about what happened on this day in history as far as events go, 1997, Microsoft releases Internet Explorer 4.
All right.
Technology for you. That'll conclude the events. Let's get right to the birthdays. Starting things off, we have a legend of the game. T-Pain turns 37 years
I'm
old.
surprised you didn't do the whole segment in auto-tune.
Can I do that?
I don't know. We got a lot of equipment up here.
We do have a lot of equipment
I
here.
haven't seen any auto-tuning, though.
Me neither. After the show, I'll give that a look, and
right.
if it does work a year from now, I'll give it to you like it
There you
should
go.
be. Ezra Miller turns 29 on this day. This makes, he's 29. If you don't know who Ezra Miller is, he's the Flash. We got some soccer players. I know, Brian, you don't really care, but this is my segment.
Correct.
Olivier Giroud turns 34, the French striker. Frank Rijkaard, Dutch legend, turns 58. And the last birthday I have to mention, Game of Thrones actress Bella Ramsey turns 18.
Yeah, all those are more important than Martina Hingis.
Who?
5-time Grand Slam, or 5 Grand Slam singles titles.
So you're a baseball guy.
Yeah, she's a tennis player, but she's a pretty big name.
Awkward. Anyways, that's going to conclude the birthdays. Let's get right to the deaths.
I mean, you had me at T-Pain. That was really the only one you needed for the whole day.
Nah.
It's T-Pain. All right, go ahead, deaths.
Robert Kardashian passed on this day in 2003.
All right.
James Dean, mentioned it before, 1955. And this is one that kind of struck me weird. There's no name for this, but a male alligator, largest in Florida, killed at about 65 years old in 1997. He was 14 feet long.
How do you not name a 14-foot alligator?
Exactly. That's what's
In
surprising.
Florida, no less.
That's probably like, I don't know, Munchie or something. That's going to conclude the deaths. Let's get right to the holidays. There were only 3 of note. First up, we have International Podcast Day. Kind of fitting, considering we had Patty G on the show.
That's right.
National Love People Day.
Okay.
And the last one was in all caps for some reason, Orange Shirt Day.
Weird.
As soon as I find the meaning of that, I will tell nobody about it. But that'll conclude this day in history.
All right. Good job as always. We are due up for another break. When we come back from that break, we're talking education. Chris Meyer from New Schools for Baton Rouge is in next. I feel so bad for Dr. Brumley. He's been on the job for almost 2 years now, and he has like this innovation place. This is shit that he wanted to launch on day one.
Yeah.
And it's been COVID, hurricane, COVID, hurricane, COVID, COVID, hurricane. Like,
and now he's getting all the accountability mess, the social study standards. And
right.
That's stuff to talk about next week. It's just can't catch a break. Like, gotta move forward.
Yeah. And how do you not like? Yeah, the accountability stuff just baffles me though, because they're not in the class. They weren't in the classroom when he started. Just he was going to be behind the 8 ball, but
no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, you got to give him tons of credit. I mean, we had school. So many friends have. I mean, California didn't go for the entire year. Chicago didn't go the entire year. New York City.
Yeah.
And here we are trying to manage.
Yeah, and I'm complaining about the amount of time that kids have to sit out, but the reason they had to sit out was because everybody else was in. So we'll dive in all of it.
Cool. Yeah.
Bruh. I mean, Good Morning America's going full on deep dive on South Louisiana.
Why today?
Oh. But this is the 3rd story on it this morning. Robin Roberts is flexing this morning. Like, she's dropping that Hammond science on him.
Was she from Hammond?
She played basketball at Southeastern.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Well, she might be from New Orleans, but she played basketball at Southeastern.
Yeah.
So,
good for her.
There you go. Making jambalaya.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Yeah, I was saying earlier, like between Robin Roberts and Kaylee Hartung, why isn't Good Morning America always Louisiana?
Totally.
Like between those two.
How often do you have authors on?
Once a week, every other week. Yeah.
I've got a couple buddies that have done some books. A former SEAL who just put one out called Never Enough. It's on the J.P. Morgan's summer reading list.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it
Would
to you.
love to. Yeah.
Connect you with Mike. He's great.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple of like. It's basically national booking,
Yeah.
and they'll run through a whole junket where they'll give you the whole schedule and whatnot. Here I just booked another one. Jerry Flanagan, Army veteran, host of the new Discovery Channel series Operation Hidden Treasures. So it's not always authors, but yeah, it's just so they'll hit me, they'll go from me to Peoria, Illinois, to Spokane, Washington, whatever. You know, they just
all in it.
20 spots
Yep.
along the way. 817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 rolling right along. Time to talk a little education. Time to welcome in Chris Meyer from New Schools for Baton Rouge. What's happening, man?
Hey, good morning. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for hopping on board this morning. Thank you for the flexibility. I know the schedule was all over the place today. Although you ended up right back where we started. So
Right where we started. And I heard we were doing this in auto-tune. Is that?
I wish. That'd be fun. The whole show in auto-tune. But we wouldn't be able to hear it. Like if the audience heard it and we just sounded like T-Pain all morning, that would be a good thing. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning. New Schools has been up to a lot, but this is I want to talk about things that the overall school system's been up to as well. Dr. Cade Brumley, from the time he took over, I joke with him about this every single day, or every single time I have him on. I say, eventually you're going to be able to get around to your agenda. Like, from the time he took over till now has been 100% crisis mode. Getting kids back at school, keeping kids in school. COVID, sending everybody home for not this past spring, but the one before. It's been one thing after another, from COVID to hurricane, from hurricane to COVID. He's finally getting around to being able to talk about the Innovation Fund, which is actually going to be funded in no small part by COVID.
That's right.
When it all comes around to it. So tell us about the Innovation Fund and how it's going to play out in Louisiana schools and charter schools as well.
Yeah, no. We had an opportunity to partner with the superintendent as he was thinking through how to use the more than $5 billion that are coming to our state as part of COVID relief. I mean, these are unprecedented resources to really help our schools and our students get to the sort of unfinished learning that's occurred over the last 18 months, 2 years now. So Dr. Brumley announced last week a fund of $35 million. This is a competition open to school districts, to charter schools, to come up with the best ideas to innovate around how to address some of this unfinished learning. So proposals he's looking for could include year-round school, could include extended day, could include taking a high-performing school that's has a wait list and replicating that school, something that we care a lot about and do every day in our work at New Schools for Baton Rouge. So, this is a really awesome opportunity, I think, for systems out there to take big ideas and serve students in a way that actually creates impact. And so, we really applaud the superintendent for creating this fund.
So it's going to be interesting to see it play out. If for no other reason, it's called the Innovation Fund, not the this is the way we've always done it, so let's dump more money into it fund. This is going... I'm talking to a charter school guy, so I realize that I'm in unfriendly territory here. This is going to put a lot of money into charter schools because charter schools, by their very definition, are innovative.
Yeah, I think it's really less about probably charter school or a more traditional school, but one that are we actually empowering our educators to lead and create the sort of things that they know work best for their kids? And that's really what this fund's about. It's asking school systems to allow those leaders who are doing something already innovative or have had a big idea to now have unprecedented resources to do that different thing, frankly, and have some protection and some distance from the political machines that always get in the way of principals and educators who want to make change and now now give them the freedom and flexibility to do that.
Okay.
That's what we want to do.
Okay. And I realize who I'm asking this of, but how do we get there within the public school system, within the traditional, this is how we've always done things system? How do you jolt that to a point where they say, look what's happening across the street, where they just opened a new charter school and are showing results over there? How do you turn that tide?
Look, if the last 18 months have not created that jolt, I don't know
That's a good
whatever
point.
will. I mean,
Yeah.
we've just gone through not only COVID pandemic, but now in South Louisiana, given the Hurricane Ida effects, you see schools and systems already thinking differently.
Yeah.
You know, how do we and we did this after Katrina, right? I mean, we began to see this as an opportunity that we could not go back, both
Right.
because physically we may not be able to, but also it wasn't working for our kids. And so I think, you know, what's important is to really highlight those best practices, highlight those schools that are doing something different. The state, you know, I'm told is going to require that there be contracts. You know, Lord forbid we, you know, give some responsibility and in turn expect some accountability, you know, for that, to really protect and make sure these things are not sort of a flash in the pan, a one-time deal, but really these are sustainable changes so that, you know, again, let's let our educators lead.
Yeah. And just, I don't know. I get cynical about it all the time, just if for no other reason than when you talk about the bureaucracy that goes along with the state government or with any department within, it gets very difficult. And it is encouraging to see the guy who heads up this department being encouraging of innovation as well.
Right.
So, and that's what a lot of we were promised with Dr. Brumley from the start. I mean, we haven't had a chance to see it yet because of crisis after crisis, but this is what we were promised on the outset: was you are going to see a guy who's not scared of pushing the envelope.
That's right. Well, and let's hope again. This is $35 million out of more than $5 billion.
Oh, no,
no,
totally.
Let's hope that you know the agenda turns very quickly to being a focus on these are every district, whether they win this competitive prize or not. There's an opportunity of once in a lifetime to do something different. Same on the infrastructure bill that I know you've been talking about that's being debated in Washington, but we have a chance to do something transformative. Let's not miss this chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And I'm not so much worried about the size and scope of or the dollar amounts that are within there. It is the saying yes to any dollar amount. It just that as cynical as I am about the whole system, that inkling of, wait a minute, the door's not closed. That there's a crack in the door, which means it could be opened further.
That's right.
Pending success this time around. Moving over to early childhood education.
Yeah.
This is something that, honestly, I didn't understand until my own kids went through it. And I am the biggest proponent now. The difference between pre-K, pre-K 3 even, once they're moving up the ladder, is remarkable. Going from daycare to an actual school setting is remarkable. That's being pushed back in East Baton Rouge now.
You know, Dr. Cito Narcisse, our new superintendent, something that we've all talked about for a long time in Baton Rouge is, you know, why don't we have the opportunity for every child, you know, from the time they're born until they get to kindergarten to have access to high quality pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, it was because, you know, you really had different systems. You had a private system and then you had sort of a publicly run system. Well, a lot has happened in the state over the last 10 years to allow us finally to think about putting all the funds that are available together. Because in the old days, it was like you said, it was government-run programs that, you know, this system wouldn't talk to that system. If you were a kid who was qualifying for some subsidy over here, you couldn't use that over there. We got to get away from that. And I think the new superintendent is proposing a plan that would fund every kid in the city, ultimately have access to high-quality pre-K. Again, using the more than $300 million that'll come directly to EBR as part of that plan. Awesome opportunity to start this. As we just got to the starting line to begin planning for this big, bold idea, the school board punted for another 60 days.
Why? I don't understand the pushback on this. Why? And I've heard different arguments against early childhood education, but it's mostly against by people that are anti-education to begin with. And
it's unquestionably positive.
Yeah,
unquestionably a positive opportunity. I think there's always questions about how do you pay for it, but that's not where we need to start. I mean, let's start with the idea that most of our kids, especially our at-risk students, are not getting access to something that you and I are doing for our own kids. And so how do we set that up in a city where we have unprecedented resources? Look, we fund every kid in EBR public schools is funded to the tune of almost $11,000.
Right.
There's plenty of resources in this system to give those students access, but the problem is we don't navigate those myriad systems that exist, LA4, Head Start, private schools that would be willing to open up slots for these students if we could, eliminate some of the government barriers to getting them in. And so I think there's a vision that we could look at the entire system in this city of all the options and provide resources where, in a voucher, say, that students could go to a pre-K center that works for them. And that's the planning that we want to see happen, but unfortunately we're stuck in neutral again. Yeah,
stuck in neutral because we do not change, which goes right back to the innovation fund on the front end. And it's not the actual definition of insanity, but everyone says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, early childhood education would be doing something different, and it's not how do you pay for it, it's how do you not pay for it when you're making an investment in your future, when you're dead last or next to last every single year, and you're not doing anything to change it, then you're going to see the same results. I'm completely converted. I was never against it. I didn't have a take until going through where, my older two started at pre-K 4. My youngest started pre-K 3. So seeing the difference there and how quickly ramped up the little one is, it's phenomenal. And now, I don't know how much more you'd get out of a pre-K, anything from birth to 3. I mean, you're talking about
there are a lot of those skills. I mean, the ability to sort of read to students, for them to hear new words, new language, new vocabulary. I mean, that is immensely positive for students to learn socialization with other kids. I mean, this was part of the shutdown during COVID. I mean, the fact that a lot of kids weren't able to socialize in any of the younger grades creates real effects long term. We know this from the science. So, I think it is really important for kids to have access to that. We can do that in this city. One of the reasons New Schools for Baton Rouge exists is because, frankly, we had to operate outside of the system. To create change. We realized, let's start new physical schools that aren't controlled by large bureaucracy, because with that comes, complex rules and things that may made sense one day but don't today.
And that's another part of it, is that we think in the construct of what a school is. We think in the construct of, when you wear a backpack and you sit in a desk all day, that's not what you're going to have for a 3-year-old.
That's right.
It's going to be a lot more free-form and open, but a reinforcement of ideas and an ability to, number one, adapt socially around other kids. And number two, you start getting that. It's a very basic adaptation of learning, but it is an adaptation of learning. Hey, we only got 2 minutes left in the segment, and I do appreciate you coming in this morning. It's always a better conversation in person. It's not to say it's bad over the phone. It's just to get more out of it. COVID-19 right now. The state has re-upped the mask mandate for 4 more weeks. And Pfizer says their vaccine won't be available for kids under the age of 12 until at least November, which those two numbers coincide. But Louisiana is no longer requiring a mandatory quarantine for close contact students. Does New Schools have a take on this? Because I feel like y'all would be in a weird spot to say, number one, kids need to be in school. The data bears that out. But number two, if we're going to keep more kids in school, shouldn't there be quarantining for those that where are y'all at here?
Yeah, well, I mean, our position is ultimately, we believe in following the science and trusting our schools, our school leaders, and our parents, right? And if you see it, I don't know that this announcement is a whole lot of anything. I think what you see most schools doing this year that's kind of gone unreported is most are testing pretty regularly among their kids. They have an emphasis to keep kids in school as much as possible. I think there were some crazy rules in the past of if you were 6 feet but not 8 feet.
They knocked that down to 3 now.
Exactly. I think this is more of the reasonable test, right? They're asking, families and schools are constantly testing. Obviously, if you have symptoms, schools are going to ask a kid to stay home. But I think this sort of fixation on mandatory, if you were within so many feet, you must stay home for 10 days. I mean, we know that that doesn't necessarily play out according to the science either. And so I think the key is let's keep kids in school learning, and that's the way we're going to catch up.
So it's ultimately a move in the right direction. He's Chris Meyer from New Schools for Baton Rouge. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Here's CBS. Yeah, I could have gone off on this for like another half hour. It's all so frustrating at this point.
They actually announced this, now that I'm going back, earlier in the year, where they put out rules to the schools to say the whole 3 feet and that you didn't have to mandatory quarantine. It was like if you saw symptoms then, but now there's a whole testing protocol in schools where they're actually paying teachers, paying students.
Mhm.
The Louisiana Department of Health, like you get $100 gift card after so many weeks of like weekly testing. And it's rapid. They've assigned a lab in every part of the state. Cade could tell you about it. But schools signed up. All the charters are doing it. And so it's just part of the norm. And then you can catch with that pool testing, like, is there an issue in the school or not?
Yeah.
But the reasonableness got to be reasonable.
Eventually, they're just gonna run out of shit and like just declare it over with. They're just like if we do this, it contradicts what we did before. Like everything we do will now contradict something we've done already. So we're just done here. We're just gonna deal with it.
Right.
So,
well, appreciate you. Yeah, this pre-K stuff will heat back up, and then next month we'll have Enroll BR kicking off. And
pre-K. I mean, it can. The hard part is you can't pinpoint where the generational change comes from. But making an investment into a generational change by starting 1 year earlier. That's it. 1 year earlier. Who's going to pay for it? We all are going to pay for it when we don't.
Right.
And
well, and frankly, some of the new ideas to, lever, for example, in high school, every kid graduating with at least 2 years of college finished or an IBC.
Yeah.
You're now taking higher ed dollars and pushing them down, so that should free up earlier.
This actually has me a little bit excited about Cito.
If he can execute and stay.
I know.
His board, I mean, literally, they're like, no. And what they tell him privately is, we think we vote with you too much. He actually had school board members say that to him, that we can't show that we're always with you. They're like, that's criminal.
I can't.
It's okay. Elections next year will be fun.
So I've got a couple different people, two right now that want to run for school board. One who is very, very active. Her son recently diagnosed with cancer. They're home from St. Jude. Yeah. Kill these.
Rocco.
Love my guy. His son came up to me. I got to tell Rocco about this. His son came up to me yesterday. We were having kindergarten basketball practice. He was finishing football practice. He just came up to say hello like a man. He's in 5th grade. Anyway.
You standing?
No, I was going to sit. Just hadn't sat yet. 8:38, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Going to take another look at the LSU-Auburn game this weekend. Want to welcome in from Condon Uncensored, right down the hall on Eagle 98.1. Also, from the post-game show, which you will also hear on Eagle 98.1, Richard Condon. Rich.
Give me the privilege of saying how enjoyable it is to work with Charles Hannigan.
Bro,
Charlie is the ultimate pro. You talk about filling up segues and making it so easy to do a show. I mean, the guy's the best. That's why he's been doing it for so long. But he makes it easy. I just do my deal, and Charlie updates the scores, and he knows how to direct the show and in and out. He's very good at what he does. I got a lot of respect for Hanny.
The most underrated in the history of
no
Baton Rouge Radio. In the history of Baton Rouge Radio. The most underrated from start to finish. So, post-game show this weekend, my word.
Around 12:30 a.m.
Yeah. That's when so I'll be finishing up on the network, handing off to y'all, and it'll already be Sunday.
Well, the thing about it is you're going to be in traffic likely. And look, if you go to the game 8 o'clock, it's Auburn. Either way, it's going to be a game where you want to hear the post game. Either way, good or bad, because it's Auburn.
Right.
And, you and I talked about this briefly, just to go in chronological order. For my dad and my grandparents, it was always Ole Miss. It was always Ole Miss. Ole Miss LSU, Ole Miss LSU. Now, you get to be my age now, 61, but for me, when I went to LSU, like Jake right now, when I went to LSU, it was LSU Alabama, because that's when Bama ran the wishbone and Johnny Musso and Paul Bear Brown would come out and impose his image on the stadium, and you would see him with his houndstooth cap and the hat, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was Alabama for me. But, for younger people, it's going to be Auburn, because there was some crazy games when Haldane was here. Despite him not winning many of them, there were some crazy games. And that series has just been crazy, bro. I mean, you go back when it started with Hodgson and Fuller, the earthquake game in 86, and then, you got the leverage game they called against LSU. That cost him a game. You got the smoke of the cigars on a field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just endless, man. Its series has been crazy. I can't think of a crazier series where more strange things. You had the
Barn
the old
burner,
gymnasium catching fire. You had, God bless Jamie Howard. You had, 6 interceptions game, 4 brought back for touchdowns. So this series has always been crazy. And what gives it an interesting angle here is I think it's either going to be feast or famine for TJ Friendly coming back.
Yeah.
Because if he gets off to a hot start, then all of a sudden, if he can remain composed, guy can have a great game. He's got the arm. We saw what he did in the comeback win over Georgia Southern. But despite it, he found his composure. He found a way to will his team to a win over Georgia Southern. And that's going to be interesting to see how he handles the game early. I have no issue with the LSU defense. I think they're strong. They're good. A great defensive front. Yeah, did they kind of fall asleep against State in the fourth quarter? No question about it. Gave up 2 touchdowns in 5 minutes. But overall, talent-wise, I think they have the talent to compete against anybody. But, here's the thing. You almost lost the game because you couldn't run against Mississippi State. Yeah, we talked about the defense not playing hard in the fourth quarter, making mistakes. But, man, the thing about it is, Brian, if they don't find a way to run the football and you're 123rd in the country, and if you would have ever told me in, a coach's 6th year or whatever, how come they can't run the football and offensive linemen, all these guys were highly recruited. We're not talking about 3 stars here.
Right.
They're all 4 and 5. How come they didn't gel? They got a new offensive line coach. Is there a lack of consistency? Are they still trying to relate to what he expects of the offensive lineman? I mean, I really don't know. And, people talk about the John Emery situation is a fiasco. Whoever dropped the football there's no way a program of LSU stature with its resources and its academic department, the Friday before the season opener, is when you tell me your stud running back, a 5-star guy, is academically ineligible. That's inexcusable. That can't happen in a place like LSU. But with this offensive line right now, you follow me?
No.
You could have Barry Sanders as a freshman. You could have Billy Sims as a sophomore. You could have Emmett Smith as a junior. You follow me?
I do. And
Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson as seniors. With this offensive line, there's no room. There's no gaps. There's nothing.
And bringing in an offensive line coach that late in the process did not help. trying to replicate the 2019 offense without having your 2019 running back doesn't help. I mean, let's not forget Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first-round draft pick when it was all said and done. Nobody thought he was going to be at the beginning, but he was a first-round draft pick when it was all said and done. I think Corey Kiner is more of that mold. John Emery would have been more of that mold. Ty Davis-Price is not that mold.
But,
so you're trying to force
look,
TDP.
kind of came in late and put up some good numbers. I get that. But, I mean, let's think about who he did it against. Okay, Central Michigan in the second half. You're wearing them down. I mean, overall, Central Michigan, they just didn't have the depth to maintain.
Right.
So, yeah, kind of put up some good numbers. I'm sure the kid's a quality back. But I don't know if John Emery would have made the improvement if he would be playing this season compared to what was expected out of him. Because he never really had any breakout game. Had some decent runs, but when the average person out there who follows LSU football, when they think five-star running back, you know what they're thinking of.
Kevin
A
Fox.
true five-star running back, even with an average offensive line, he can break one and go house.
Right.
You know, you talk about what Cecil Collins did against Auburn. You remember that game?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I was watching highlights of that.
He got crazy, did some silly things. I mean, he had to get kicked off the team. But overall, Brian, I think LSU wins the game. I think it'll be a close game. I think at home the crowd's going to be into it. You know, they're going to have a couple of shooters. So I think LSU wins the game. The only thing that worries me is if Finley gets off to a hot start and he's able to maintain the composure if he throws one pick, okay? Or he gets sacked early. Or LSU jumps out to a nice lead, say 2 touchdowns, 10 points, and he tries to go beyond what he should be doing, playing under control, making good throws, never getting rattled. I don't know if he has that. Obviously, he's got the physical attributes in a physical game to play the game, but, you know, that young, on the road, going home, family in the stands. See, I want to show you that I should have got more reps in practice. I should have gotten more play time at LSU.
Has he been announced as the starter?
He'll start.
You think?
Yeah, Bo Nix. Yeah, I think Bo Nix will be benched. I think T.J. Finley, because Bo Nix hadn't done anything in the previous games, and you got a kid that comes in like that and leads you to a win. But again, coaches can do the day before. I don't know how T.J. looked in practice all week. I don't know. But, I mean, you would think, most people think he's going to be given a shot. And I'm sure it's an easy pull. If he struggles early, you just go with your guy.
I mean, so when you're talking about Bo Nix, though, you're talking about a third-year starter bailing on him after one. Like, I could see T.J. Finley in pinch hit duty again. If it happens again the same way, then, yeah, maybe after this one. But I don't know, man. They got a lot invested, and coaches don't like to sell out on investments. The game itself, though, regardless of who starts at quarterback for Auburn, it's going to be somewhat of plays into the legend lore of the series because Bo Nix's dad is Patrick Nix, who was the quarterback for Auburn in the.
You know, after what didn't happen at UCLA, the travesty of that, and then of course, all right, McNeese, you know, whatever, God bless him, and Central Michigan. Okay, but we still don't really know the true identity of this football team.
No.
We still don't know because obviously, you know, Mississippi State looked great against us last year, and then guess what? They didn't do anything the rest of the way.
Right.
So State, okay, LSU was able to pull out, you know, they win by a few points. State came back, you know, if they get the onside kick, if there's a lot of LSU and Mississippi State in Coach O's 6th year should never come down to if they get it's his 6th season as head coach. That's how quick time passes. But they should never come down at this point of the program.
Right.
It should never come down to the 4th quarter against Mississippi State. It just shouldn't.
Well, but it wasn't though. They crept back in it.
Well, still, but that should not happen.
But you got out of there. You got out of there with an SEC road win, regardless.
But year in and year out, Mississippi State should not compete against LSU. Every now and then they'll get a special class and make that little run. When Sherrill was there, get that little special class.
Yeah.
You know, Prescott, get that special guy. But the average State football player is a 3-star. They may get lucky because his dad played at State, you know, back in the early 80s. So now he's there. State does not have the talent LSU has and should never be competitive year in and year out. So tomorrow's game, I think no matter what happens, we'll know. Because it's only going to get tougher. Then it's Alabama. And then it's Florida. And what's lies ahead. So tomorrow's game, if you don't have your identity after 4 ball games,
yes,
chances are this team will be just peaks and valleys all season.
The crazy thing is, though, is no one's going to look at Saturday's game through the lens of let's just look at Saturday's game. And where we're at right now with the Ogeron era is they've got to build that identity game by game.
Look, I know you showed it, Tom, but here's what people don't want to hear, okay? When you're making that kind of money, all right? When you're making that kind of money, fair or unfair, when you're making that kind of money, people do not want to hear we got to coach better, I got to scheme better. We got to correct the mistakes. Those are the kind of comments you want a second-year guy at North Texas to say, or Stephen
No,
F.
I'm with
Austin
you.
to
I'm with
say.
you on that.
You follow me?
No.
Not this many years in, with the recruiting base you have and all the recruiting classes you brought in, you can't say after a game, well, we got to get better at this against lesser opponents. Oh, we need to work on our schemes. That ain't going to work at this point. No. So, at what point in your career that can no longer be said?
No,
Is
I
it
don't
year
know.
7? Is it year 9? Is it year 10? That's what frustrates LSU fans the most. You can't keep hearing after every disappointing loss how, well, we need to do better here and we need to do better there. No, it's got to be a game where, guess what? They just beat you because they were better.
Yeah.
Not because they have less talent, but you got out-coached.
In the history of the LSU Auburn game, best one in your in your mind was what?
No one's even going to remember it. And it's personal.
Okay.
So the average person doesn't care, but for me it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was the first date with my now wife. It's the only time I ever sat in the student section.
Wow. Nice.
I think it was 80. And we were sitting in the student section, and former LSU secondary guy, linebacker, Marcus Quinn. Auburn was driving down. He went to St. Aug. Auburn was driving down the field, and it was like a last-second throw, and Marcus Quinn made the interception in the north end zone by the student section, and that preserved the win. Just because of the moment, that's all it was. Just because but, I mean, overall, you got to pick Hodgson or Fuller. You got to pick that when they went right back to him when his foot was on the back line of the end zone.
Yeah.
And then Hodgson had the faith. Let's go right back to Eddie Fuller.
The Earthquake game is probably everybody's number one, although my first SEC game as a student was Troy Twilley, bring back the magic
interception.
game. Yeah.
Troy Twilley out of Shaw. Didn't he go to Shaw?
I thought he went to Slidell. He wore green, but I thought he went to Slidell.
It's indifferent. He's now gone and playing well somewhere.
That's awesome. He is Richard Conn, and you'll catch him on the post-game show after the game. We always appreciate
Thanks,
you, brother.
B.
No,
Everybody
thank
have a
you
great
for coming
weekend.
on down. We're going to take a quick break. Hey, how would you like to go to the game? We've got a chance for you to win. Actually, you can text to win. We're going to talk with the Capital Area United Way, Amey Shortess Crousillac. She's the VP of Resource Development with Capital Area United Way, is going to join us to close out the show to talk about how you can text to win tickets to this Saturday's game, West Stadium Club package. That's 4 passes to the West Stadium Club and more. We're going to talk about that next. Amy's going to hop on the hotline and talk about how you can text to win and a little bit of what United Way's got going on right now. That's coming up next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, as always. That's 1980.
Yeah.
Nuts. Crazy. Did you delete this message? Did you do something on YouTube this morning?
Yeah, some dude was commenting like a lot of shit.
Yeah. Did he say anything vulgar?
I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, unless he said something completely like vulgar or of a sexual nature. Don't sweat it. Don't just leave it alone for now. It's fine.
I've been told this whole time that there's people that just get on and troll and
Yeah, so I ignore them for the most part unless they start attacking other people who post or getting very graphic of a sexual nature. This person, he'll come back tomorrow with a different persona. He'll create a whole new YouTube account just so he can follow the show and talk shit again, but because that's what his life revolves around. But unless he's attacking another person, unless he's bullying somebody else within the chat, or he's of a graphic and sexual nature. Those are my only two. Like, the rest of it, I don't care. Well, yeah. Well, that's not unusual. I hadn't been in the chat all day long, so I hadn't even looked. Yeah. He gets off on it, basically. That's what he's there to do.
So we have Amey, Shortess, Crousillac.
Yes. Oh, let me kill the mic. I'll give her a number. Okay. No more live read? Yeah, the only other live read I would have had would have been Ghost Lemon. That's not till tomorrow. Yeah. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One segment to go on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Thanks again to Richard Condon for talking a little LSU Auburn. I got to tell you, I'm impressed. Rich dug into this year's game. I was expecting more of the historical perspective. Rich dug into this year's game a lot. That's go ahead, Rich. Always appreciate his time. Hey, how would you like to go to the game? How would you like, if you're not already in that number for Tiger Stadium for this weekend, and you would like 4 West Stadium Club passes, today is your last day to register. You got a text to win with the Capital Area United Way. Joining us now to talk about that, Amey Shortess Crousillac is on the hotline. Amey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. How are you doing?
Doing very well. So Capital Area United Way is looking to put some folks inside Tiger Stadium this week with a text to win contest. Proceeds are going towards disaster relief from Capital Area United Way to, I assume, Hurricane Ida victims. Let's talk about it a little bit. We got about 2.5, 3 minutes to cover it. So the contest itself, we'll get around to how to enter in a second. But Capital Area United Way's involvement in helping out here, what is
yes.
it? Yeah.
We're helping out with short-term and long-term recovery of the people that are in our area that were affected by Hurricane Ida. Boots on the ground, and then we have to also plan for that long-term recovery. This is going to take quite some time for people to get back on their feet again.
It absolutely is, and it's something that's going to be missed by a lot of folks because of just how devastating it is down the bayou from here, how devastating it is
Correct.
along the coast from here, that there are still people hurting in our own area as a result of this storm.
They are. So we, along with our community, are trying to do everything we can to help them get back on their feet.
Well, and in order to do that, you can text to win tickets to this weekend's LSU game. Today's the last day. You have until midnight tonight. And what does it take for folks to get involved?
It's really simple. All you have to do is text LSU United to 313131, and with a minimum donation of $10 to our disaster relief fund, we'll enter you with a chance to win those outstanding club seats that you talked about, along with the parking pass. And the parking pass, it's right by the doors of Tiger Stadium.
Wait, am I seeing this right? Lot 401?
Yes. Lot 401.
I'm parking 406. These are better spots than I got.
These are great tickets that were given to us by one of our donors.
These are, yeah, they are fantastic, and the West Stadium Club is top-notch as well. So LSU United, text LSU United, so that's 2 U's back-to-back, right?
Yeah, they are 2 U's back-to-back.
LSU United, and a minimum $10 donation, obviously no maximum if you want to help out more. It is worth noting that the $10 donation is worth one chance. How many times can you sign up?
Well, we're going to make it really easy. So if you make a $100 donation, we're going to enter you in that 10 times.
Beautiful, beautiful. Every $10 upwards gets you another entry. Midnight tonight is when it closes out. When do we find out the winner?
First thing tomorrow morning, we'll email and call the winner to let them know when they come to our office downtown Baton Rouge at 700 Laurel Street and pick them up. We have them ready to go.
700. Looks like a little bitty fortress on Laurel Street. I love y'all's office.
It does.
Such a historic building.
Yes.
Amey, thank you so much for hopping on board today. We'll get some folks signed up and hopefully put somebody in Tiger Stadium this weekend.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. That is going to do it for us. Fox News Rundown's next. All right, hey, YouTube, I'm not done for today. I had so much more to do. I don't know if we want to do a whole other segment just for YouTube. I don't feel like covering FEMA crap. I didn't get the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. That was the only one we didn't see. Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Anyway, I'm curious if anybody saw the headline, though, before we get out of here. Dun, 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 scrolling through my press releases. Ha 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 ha. From the Associated Press, and I don't. Let me know. Am I being petty? Am I being bitter? Am I being small about this? The headline from the Associated Press: Louisiana extends mask mandate. More unvaccinated pregnant women and unborn babies are dying of COVID. Melinda DeLatte wrote the article. Melinda's a fantastic writer, and I know enough about the newspaper business to know that normally the person who writes the article doesn't write the headline. So I'm not going to blame Melinda for this. But I find it curious that the Associated Press would take such a pro-life stance. When they're dying of COVID, they're unborn babies, not fetuses? Curious. Anyway, yes, I'm being petty. I realize that. Guys, we got a jam-packed show tomorrow. Actually, let me tell you, I got one that's lined up right now that I know we can confirm. If you're looking for help in the wake of Hurricane Ida, Fannie Mae has mortgage assistance and disaster relief available. We're going to talk with Fannie Mae tomorrow. We're going to get another look at LSU Auburn. Haggai's going to be in for a cup of tech gumbo. Actually, there's one more that I don't want to spoil. Congressman Garrett Graves. It's going to be on tomorrow as well. So, golly, full show already.